Chapter 478. Tang family. After inquiring about the location of the Jiang family, Yi Xian quickly rushed over. The reason why he saved the siblings was actually a little selfish. He wanted to find an excuse for himself to kill his way to the Jiang family. There were two major forces in the 100 Refinement City. One was the City Lord's mansion, and the other was the Jiang family. Under normal circumstances, these two families would fight to the death because of benefits. However, the relationship between the two families was very harmonious. This was because the Jiang family and the City Lord's mansion were like the Yi family and the Lin family in Lianyan City. The ancestors of the two families were from the same family. Therefore, Yi Xian understood that if he caused trouble in the Jiang family, the City Lord's mansion would definitely not stand by idly. At this moment, Yi Xian had already arrived in front of the Jiang family's gate. "Who are you?" a guard of the Jiang family asked in surprise. Unexpectedly, Yi Xian did not say a word and directly charged over. In the blink of an eye, the arms of the two guards were chopped off and their interspatial rings were gone. At the same time, Yi Xian's figure disappeared as well. Yi Xian had already opened 8 earth veins and could sense the location of those soul essence realm experts. He first found trouble with those weaker soul essence realm experts. By the time the upper echelons of the Jiang family reacted, Yi Xian had already opened his 9th bloodline. "How dare you behave atrociously in my Jiang family? Die!" A shout came from the sky. Yi Xian turned his head and saw an old man flying over. With the relationship between the Jiang family and the City Lord's mansion, the Jiang family could naturally fly in the 100 Refinement City. The patriarch of the Jiang family, Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The reason why young Master Jiang was so arrogant and unreasonable was because he was spoiled by the patriarch of the Jiang family. Therefore, this old fellow was on Yi Xian's must-kill list. "You dare to find trouble with me with just 12 earth veins? Die!" Yi Xian's killing intent was revealed. In just 3 rounds, he chopped off the head of the Jiang family's patriarch. As the head of the Jiang clan, the Jiang clan's patriarch was extremely wealthy. He directly allowed Yi Xian to open the 10th earth vein. After that, Yi Xian ran around the Jiang family and took away the universe rings of the remaining soul essence realm cultivators in the Jiang family. If there was anyone he didn't like, he would directly kill them. When Yi Xian left the Jiang clan, he had only opened 10 earth veins, but he was not far from opening the 11th. At the same time, when he entered the Jiang family, he only killed one person who hadn't reached the soul essence realm, which was young Master Jiang. "It's your turn now." Yi Xian looked in one direction and smiled. In this world, the strong were respected. Killing people to steal treasures could be seen everywhere. Yi Xian had robbed the Jiang family, but had not killed many people, which was not bad. Very quickly, Yi Xian arrived in the air above the City Lord's mansion. "How dare you fly in the 100 Refinement City?" Before Yi Xian stopped, a passing City Lord mansion worshipper shouted. However, before he could finish his sentence, he felt a pain in his shoulder. He lowered his head and saw that his entire arm was gone. At this moment, Yi Xian had already charged into the City Lord mansion. In less than 3 minutes, he had opened the 11th earth vein. The 100 Refinement City Lord only had 14 earth veins. To him, it was not much of a threat. The City Lord mansion was very efficient, much faster than the Jiang clan. Not long after Yi Xian opened the 11th earth vein, the 100 Refinement City Lord charged out. "Bastard, die!" The 100 Refinement City Lord charged out of nowhere and slashed down at Yi Xian with his sword. Swish! Yi Xian, who had just swallowed an universe ring, nimbly dodged the slash and instantly rushed over. So fast, the 100 Refinement City Lord's heart trembled. In the next moment, his arm disappeared. Ding! The host has opened the 12th earth vein. A notification sounded. Originally, Yi Xian did not want to kill anyone, but the 100 Refinement City Lord allowed the Jiang clan to do whatever they wanted. Moreover, if the 100 Refinement City Lord was still alive, he would definitely arrest Yi Xian. So he had to die. Die! Yi Xian slashed horizontally, and the 100 Refinement City Lord's head was thrown up. However, just as Yi Xian killed the 100 Refinement City Lord, Another angry roar sounded. Bastard, you actually killed him? Yixian turned his head to look and discovered an old man that was charging towards him. This aura gave Yixian the feeling that he was much stronger than the 100 Refinement City Lord. What's going on? Could it be the 100 Refinement City Lord's father? But Lei Feng said that the 100 Refinement City Lord's father died long ago. Yixian's eyes widened. It seemed that Lei Feng's information was wrong, or perhaps some expert had come to the 100 Refinement City as a guest. Yixian estimated that this old man had opened at least 16 earth veins. However, after he exchanged blows with the old man, he realized that he was very wrong. The amount of heaven and earth essence energy that this old man could use was very terrifying, much more than the 100 Refinement City Lord. It was likely that the other party had already opened 17 or even 18 earth veins. Where did he come from? Yixian's face darkened. From the beginning until now, he had already exchanged 10 blows with this old man. In these 10 rounds, he was at a disadvantage. He could not be defeated. This made Yixian want to retreat. Retreat first. Yixian turned around and ran. Good boy, you actually dared to kill a disciple of the Supreme Purity Palace. I, Tang Pingyun, will definitely capture you and hand you over to the Supreme Purity Palace. The old man shouted loudly. He was different from Tang Tian's bodyguard from before. He immediately guessed that Yixian had killed a disciple of the Supreme Purity Palace and then cultivated the martial arts of the Supreme Purity Palace. However, when Yixian heard his words, his eyes lit up. Tang? His purpose in coming to Celestial Wolf Island this time was to find the Tang family, and this old man's surname was Tang, so he might be from that Tang family. However, it was better to escape first. What fast speed! You actually even learned the Supreme Purity demonic trampling steps. The old man saw through the movement technique Yixian used with a glance. He did not expect that such a thing would actually happen in 100 Refinement City. He originally came to 100 Refinement City to discuss some matters with the 100 Refinement City Lord, but now that the 100 Refinement City Lord was killed, what was there to discuss? However, if he could catch a person disguised as a disciple of the Supreme Purity Palace, it would be a great contribution. However, whether he could catch Yixian was still a problem. Yixian retreated as he fought, and soon he flashed out of 100 Refinement City. As for the old man, he followed behind Yixian relentlessly. The two of them gradually left 100 Refinement City, one fleeing and one chasing. Damn it, this kid's speed is too fast, and his true chi seems to be inexhaustible. I might not be able to catch up to him. The old man was very helpless in his heart. After deliberating for a moment, he turned around. He wanted to go back and report the matter. Supreme Purity Palace was also an overlord force on Celestial Wolf Island. Someone actually used the flag of Supreme Purity Palace to slaughter the City Lord's mansion of 100 Refinement City. This was not a small crime. Not chasing anymore? Yixian turned his head and saw that the old man had already turned around and left. Immediately, he chased after him again. Chapter 479. Chapter 479. Chapter 479. Join hands. He actually followed me. Could it be that this brat wants to kill me? The old man reminded himself. He had to be careful. It was better to be safe than sorry. However, it didn't take long for someone to rush over. Yixian's figure trembled as he immediately dodged. Brother, don't be afraid. I'm just here to discuss something with you. The man with the broadsword said with a smile. Discuss? Yixian was somewhat shocked. He reckoned that this man was probably even stronger than the 100 Refining City Lord. What is it? Yixian asked curiously. Hee. The man grinned and said, I saw you fight with Tang Pingyun just now. Your strength is not bad. Why don't we join forces and kill him together? Oh, Yixian was slightly surprised. This person was actually here to join forces with him. However, he was still suspicious. Do you know who he is? That's right. I've been following him all the way. He's from the Tang family in the City Master's mansion of Jinwu City. As long as you cooperate with me, I don't want anything in his interspatial ring. I only want a piece of paper. The man nodded. A map? Yixian frowned. What kind of map is that? Little brother, don't ask so many questions. I'm sincerely here to cooperate with you. As long as you agree, I only want that map after everything is done." The man didn't reveal the secret. "Sorry, I refuse," Yixian replied. This man wanted to work with him, but he only wanted a map. Obviously, that map was more important than the entire universe ring. It might be a treasure map or something like that. "Little brother, if he returns to Golden Crow City, there will be no other way," the man reminded. "Then do it yourself." When the man heard this, he hesitated for a moment before finally compromising. "All right, I'll tell you. That map is the Tang family's new shipping route. As long as I have it, I can guard that place." Now Yixian finally understood what the map was. "All right, deal." Yixian immediately agreed. It was just a map, which was of little use to him. He would rather have the interspatial ring. However, he was still on guard his heart. After all, this man's background was unknown, so he had to be careful in case the other party launched a sneak attack. "Good. Straightforward, let's go." After the man finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed toward the old man. Yixian followed closely behind. Previously, he could not do anything to the old man, but now that the old man had consumed a lot of innate chi, and he had one more helper, if nothing unexpected happened, the old man would definitely fall. The two quickly approached each other. The old man seemed to have sensed something, and when he turned around, his expression stiffened. "Damn it, it's the people from the Black Tiger Mountain. They must have come for the transport map." The old man instantly reacted. His whereabouts this time had been concealed, but now that his whereabouts had been exposed, it could only mean one thing. There was a spy in the Tang family. However, this was a topic for another time. Right now, he had to deal with Yixian and Yixian. He turned around, and the 18 earth veins instantly expanded. They began to communicate with the chi of heaven and earth, and directly attacked Yixian and Yixian. Yixian was not afraid of the old man before, and now that it was 2 against 1, his confidence was bursting. After easily dodging the sword chi, he and the other man approached the old man. Prime Clarity Sword Technique. Yixian directly used his special skill. Prime Clarity Sword Technique? The man was slightly surprised. Wasn't the Tang family a subordinate of the Prime Clarity Palace? Why were they fighting with their own family members? In the next moment, he realized that Yixian must have cultivated the martial arts of the Prime Clarity Palace. The two men charged to the old man's left and right. In an instant, the old man felt an enormous pressure. However, he was still a high-ranking member of the Tang family. How could he be killed so easily? However, after a while, he cursed in his heart. He had forgotten that he was not in peak condition when he fought. If his innate chi was used up, he would be dead for sure. "Go!" The old man did not dare to fight anymore. He hurriedly rushed toward the Golden Crow City at full speed. "You still want to leave now?" Yixian's eyes widened, and his speed suddenly skyrocketed. His Prime Clarity demonic stomping steps had been cultivated to 80%, which was 20% higher than the old man's identity martial arts. Rip! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. The old man's thigh was grazed by Yixian's sword chi, and a large piece of flesh was cut off. Blood flowed out, and his speed immediately decreased. He was already no match for Yixian and Yixian. Now that he was injured, he did not have long to live. No, the new route of the family's transportation must not be leaked. The old man's face darkened. He took out a map from his interspatial ring, and then channeled his innate chi, preparing to shatter it into pieces. Oh no! The man was shocked and attacked with all his might. However, he was still one step too slow. By the time his sword chi cut through the old man's arm, the map had already been shattered into pieces. Rip! The old man's arm flew up. A figure quickly rushed over and caught the arm, then took off the interspatial ring. Ding! The host has opened the 13th ley vein. Ding! The host has opened the 14th ley vein. The two notifications rang out. Yixian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The items in the old man's interspatial ring were extremely valuable. It had to be said that the old man was too confident in himself. He actually carried the items with him. Or perhaps this was the only thing he carried when he went out. The Tang family was indeed rich. Die! After the breakthrough, Yi Xian's strength sword. He swung the Bahuang sword in his hand lightly, and the old man's head flew off. Die. This time, it was all thanks to this man. Otherwise, Yi Xian would not have been able to do anything to the old man. The man also rushed over. Looking at the map that had been reduced to dust, he sighed helplessly. You can't blame me for this. Yi Xian shrugged. Sigh, what a pity. The man shook his head and said, In that case, I'll take my leave. After saying that, he turned around and left. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he suddenly turned around and slashed at Yi Xian with his saber. I knew you were up to no good. Yi Xian had been on guard. When he saw the man suddenly attack, he immediately stepped back with the Xianxia's demonic stomping steps and dodged the saber. Then, he stomped his feet and rushed toward the man like a flash of light. Rip! The Bahuang's sword accurately pierced the man's heart. Die! In the wild, one could not let their guard down. Even brothers could kill each other for some heaven and earth treasure. Yi Xian kicked the man's body again and sent it flying. Then, he put away the man's interspatial ring and weapon. So, you're a bandit. Yi Xian swallowed everything in the interspatial ring, then began to check the interspatial ring. Chapter 480. Sneaking into the Tang family. Tang family. Looking for a high sinecure? Yi Xian's eyes lit up. If this was the case, he could sneak into the Tang family and investigate the whereabouts of those divine core warriors from the Heavenly Water Continent a few months ago. Yi Xian didn't know much about the Tang family. All he knew was that the Tang family had an ancestor who had opened 29 earth veins. Unlike the spirit realm, the essence realm didn't require a huge amount of natural treasures. A essence realm warrior might suddenly have an epiphany and open up a few earth veins, or even heavenly veins. Therefore, it was related to one's natural talent. Of course, with the help of precious natural treasures, even a little kid might be able to reach the essence realm. Without hesitation, Yi Xian started heading toward the Golden Crow City. As for Lu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiaowan, Yi Xian wasn't worried about them. After all, they had found a place to live in seclusion. The Golden Crow City was considered a big city on the Heavenly Wolf Island. It was second only to the Heavenly Wolf City. Right at this moment, Yi Xian had arrived at the Golden Crow City. After that, he asked around for the location of the Tang family, which was the mayor's mansion. As the mayor's mansion, the Tang family was a family that could control the entire Golden Crow City. Yi Xian had opened 14 earth veins, and his overall strength was not bad. Furthermore, he had a great natural talent, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to join the Tang family. Young man, what are you doing here? When Yi Xian arrived at the mayor's mansion, a man stopped him. It was a guard from the Tang family. I want to join the Tang family. Yi Xian stated his intention without hesitation. Oh, what's your cultivation level? The guard asked. Yi Xian answered without thinking. I've opened 14 earth veins. 14 earth veins? The guard was shocked. He never expected Yi Xian to be a genius. He had only opened 1 earth vein when he was almost 40 years old. This way, please. The guard immediately smiled. Then he personally led Yi Xian into the mayor's mansion. After that, he brought Yi Xian in front of a middle-aged man. Oh, you opened 14 earth veins and want to join my Tang clan? The middle-aged man was somewhat surprised. A genius like Yi Xian definitely had some sort of background. He had no choice but to ask about this person joining the Tang family. Where are you from? The middle-aged man asked. Yi Xian understood that the middle-aged man in front of him must have opened at least 20 earth veins. His strength was extraordinary. I'm from the Bloodcliff continent, Yi Xian replied. Bloodcliff continent, which city? The middle-aged man asked again. Before they arrived, Yi Xian had already prepared the information. He directly mentioned a coastal territory and its specific location. This was what he had seen in one of the Qian Kuan rings he had obtained previously. Yi Xian's reaction dispelled most of the doubts in the middle-aged man's mind, but the latter continued to ask, Why did you choose to join the Tang family? Because my surname is also Tang, Tang Hulu, Yi Xian replied. This name was randomly made up on the spot, because he suddenly remembered that there was no such thing as Tang Hulu in this world. He also sighed in his heart. Fortunately, he was resourceful and had strong adaptability. Otherwise, he would have made a mistake. And very good. Show me a martial art, the middle-aged man said again. Yixian took out a high-grade heaven tool and directly pierced it into the sky. It was the 90% complete hidden dragon stab. The power is not bad. It should be around 90% complete, but the grade of the martial art is too low. The middle-aged man was very satisfied. He also felt that Yixian was able to mobilize the heaven and earth yuan qi. It was indeed 14 earth veins. Although the hidden dragon sword art and the prime clarity sword art were both high-grade heaven-tier martial arts, the gap between them was still very large. The middle-aged man was thinking that if Yixian learned a stronger martial art, he might be able to challenge those above his level. In short, Yixian was a good seedling. Good. Tang Hulu, you have joined my Tang clan now. My name is Tang Yuanhang, an elder of the Tang clan. You will work under me. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he let the guard take Yixian to his residence. At the same time, he reminded Yixian where he could enter and where he could not. Just like that, Yixian stayed in the Tang clan. This Tang clan's strength was outstanding. He could not make a big fuss like the Jiang clan and the 100 Tempering Cities City Lord's office. Otherwise, he would probably be slapped to death. However, just as Yixian came out, he suddenly bumped into a girl. Greetings, 7th young lady. The Tang clan guard greeted respectfully. Yixian glanced at him. F***. He almost vomited. This girl was fat. Her face was full of pockmarks, and she had a mouthful of big yellow teeth. Her nostrils were even bigger than Yixian's thumb, and her eyes were almost as big as Yixian's pinky nail. She looked like a flower. Greetings, 7th young lady. Yixian quickly shifted his gaze away from the Tang clan guard. After that, he followed the girl. The 7th young lady glanced at Yixian, then her eyes lit up. She stared at Yixian's back as he left. Then she entered Tang Yuanhang's courtyard. 6th uncle, this is what Dad asked me to give you. The 7th young lady handed over a piece of paper to him. Tang Yuanhang took the paper and gave it a look. He was shocked. Why is there more? Didn't we only ask for 100 people last month? I don't know. This is a request from the Xianxia Palace. Perhaps those devils have become even stronger. The 7th young lady shook her head and said, All right, I understand. Tang Yuanhang nodded his head helplessly. Last month, they had just handed over 200 divine core death row prisoners to the Xianxia Palace, and this month, they were asking for 400. The number had doubled. The divine core warriors the Tang clan had captured from the Heavenly Water Island were only a few hundred. Luckily, Tang Yuanhang had the foresight to ask his men to capture all the true spirit warriors and above from the Heavenly Water Island. Although these people might not be able to withstand being possessed by the devils, there were still some who could withstand it. At the same time, Tang Yuanhang was preparing to personally eliminate some bandits and other forces. Those bandits were at least of the strength realm, but this wasn't a long-term solution. Right at this moment, the 7th young lady asked again, 6th uncle, who was that guy just now? Tang Yuanhang was startled for a moment. Then he immediately understood that the 7th young lady was talking about Yixian. He replied, He's the Tang clan's new sinecure. Why? Do you like him? 6th uncle, you can ask him to come find me tonight. The 7th young lady suddenly smiled. All right, I got it. Tang Yuanhang nodded his head. He understood what his niece meant. Although this niece of his was a little ugly, she had a pretty good talent. After that, the 7th young lady left. Right after Yixian had settled down, and while he was thinking about how to investigate this matter, someone knocked on his door. He opened the door and saw a guard from the Tang clan. Sinecure Tang, someone wants to see you. Please follow me. The guard said. He didn't wait for Yixian to ask any questions. He just turned around and left. This confused Yixian. Could it be that the higher-ups of the Tang clan saw his talent and wanted to train him? Chapter 481. Fury, however, after walking for a while, Yixian felt that something was amiss. This seemed to be the place where the Tang family's daughter lived. The guard brought Yixian to a courtyard and said, The person who wants to see you is inside. In addition, the 6th elder said that he would gather at the martial arts practice field tomorrow morning to exterminate the bandits and bandits in the Golden Crow Mountain Range. All right, I understand. Yixian nodded. He did not expect to be assigned a task, as soon as he entered. After that, the guard left. Yixian pushed open the door and walked in with some surprise. When he came to the courtyard, he saw that the door was half open. At the same time, a girl's voice came from inside. "Come in." F***CK, it's really a girl? Yixian did not associate it with the seventh young mistress that he saw just now, because when he thought of it, his stomach would churn, so he had already deleted that memory. He tried to push open the door and enter, but there was no one inside. However, he sensed that there was someone behind the screen. He took a few steps forward and realized that something was wrong. There was poison in this room. Ding! The poison is immune to the host. After hearing the notification, Yixian's eyes suddenly widened. He also realized that this was a poison that could make a soul-refining realm martial artist sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. At this moment, the person behind the screen walked out. Yixian's eyes were almost blinded. Wasn't this the seventh young mistress, Ruhua? Furthermore, the other party had exposed both of his shoulders. In an instant, Yixian understood that he had been exposed. He immediately slapped Ruhua across the air. Bang! Although the seventh young mistress was also in the soul-refining realm, her strength was much weaker than Yixian. After Yixian sent her flying, he immediately took off her universe ring and quickly rushed out of the room. He could not stay in the Tang family any longer. Yixian wanted to cry, but had no tears. He originally planned to sneak into the Tang family, but he did not expect that in less than an hour, he would betray the Tang family. When he hurriedly left the courtyard, he heard Ruhua's angry roar. Now, the entire Tang family was alarmed. Damn it, retreat! Yixian cursed and quickly left the Tang family. Fortunately, he had taken the 7th Mrs. Cosmos ring and successfully opened the 15th Earth vein. Otherwise, his operation would have been in vain. All in all, it wasn't a loss. Everything happened so suddenly that before the Tang family could react, Yixian had already left. There was nothing the Tang family could do. At this time, in the sky outside Golden Crow City. Damn you, Tang Yuanhang, I'll definitely kill you. Yixian flew into a rage. If it weren't for the Sacred Tree of Life bloodline, his first time would have most likely been lost here. If that was really the case, then he might as well commit suicide. Although he had caused such a ruckus, he had also gained some benefits. Moreover, he knew that Tang Yuanhang was going to organize a group of people to hunt bandits and other bandits tomorrow. Therefore, Yixian waited outside the city for a while, waiting for them to come out. Yixian also asked the Tang family guard about Tang Yuanhang's cultivation base. Tang Yuanhang was the 6th elder of the Tang family and had opened 24 earth veins. He was very powerful. It was precisely because of this that Yixian chose to directly leave the Tang clan and not cause a ruckus. The difference between 24 earth veins and 15 earth veins was huge. If Yixian fought with Tang Yuanhang, he would probably be sent flying like a flower. I only slapped the 7th miss and took her Cosmos ring. The Tang family shouldn't make any big moves, so Tang Yuanhang's itinerary tomorrow shouldn't change. Yixian thought to himself and left immediately. His goal this time was to eliminate these bandits in front of Tang Yuanhang, then find trouble with Tang Yuanhang. The Golden Crow Mountain Range was just outside Golden Crow City. It led to the Celestial Wolf City, so there were many bandits and bandits here. It was already night. Yixian took advantage of the night to search the mountain range. He found a few bandits' nests. These bandits were not strong, at most with 20 dragon power, but there were many of them. Yixian cleaned up these bandits' nests overnight, gradually increasing his strength. These bandits actually had backers, which was why they weren't annihilated. However, Yixian didn't care who their backers were. By daybreak, most of the bandits' nests in the Golden Crow Mountain Range had been wiped out by Yixian. Only a few hidden nests were spared. Even Tang Yuanhang couldn't do anything about it, but Yixian did it with the bloodline of the Sacred Tree of Life. After the massacre, Yixian opened 3 earth veins, increasing the number of earth veins he had from 15 to 18. At this time, he was guarding the entrance of the Golden Crow Mountain Range, waiting for Tang Yuanhang's arrival. Sure enough, Yixian finally found the Tang family's team at noon. There were only 10 people in this team, led by the 6th elder of the Tang family, Tang Yuanhang. Last night, The Tang family had turned the entire Golden Crow city upside down, but didn't find Yixian. They would never have thought that Yixian would sweep through most of the Golden Crow mountain range and then wait for them at the entrance. When the Tang family's team was about to enter the Golden Crow mountain range, Yixian descended from the sky and landed in front of them. Tang Yuanhang, you're finally here. Yixian looked at the Tang family's team with a cold expression. It's you? Tang Yuanhang, who was still wondering who dared to intercept the Tang family's team, was also astonished when he saw Yixian. Tang Yuanhang, I wanted to join the Tang family, but you sent me out. Today, none of you will leave. Yixian said loudly. Sent? You coveted my niece's interspatial ring and injured her. Li Zheng, take him down. Tang Yuanhang shouted angrily. The seventh young mistress had distorted the truth yesterday, so Tang Yuanhang didn't know the truth. However, Yixian didn't bother to explain. He was determined to kill Tang Yuanhang anyway. Yixian's lips curled up as he watched the Tang family's consecrator, Li Zheng, dashing toward him. The Bahuang's sword was already in his hand. Li Zheng had only opened 18 earth veins, the same as Yixian. With such strength, he could only be killed in an instant. Rip. Sure enough, Li Zheng's head was thrown up in less than a second. Instant kill. Yixian took off his interspatial ring and shouted, Who else? How is this possible? Tang Yuanhang was very surprised. He had personally witnessed Yixian's strength, but Yixian was able to kill an expert who had opened 18 earth veins in just one day. How is this possible? It seems that this brat was hiding his strength before. Tang Yuanhang thought to himself. At this moment, he hadn't realized that Yixian was using the martial arts of Xianxia Palace. Sun Xiaoyu, Tang Yuanhang shouted. Chapter 482. Revenge. Tang Yuanhang had already opened 24 veins. Faced with such a situation, he couldn't lower himself to personally attack Yixian. Worshippers, to put it nicely, were worshippers. To put it bluntly, they were hired thugs. Sun Xiaoyu walked out and didn't waste any words, directly charging over. However, what no one expected was that Sun Xiaoyu, who had opened 20 veins, was actually instantly killed by Yixian. Just how many veins had Yixian opened? Prime Clarity Sword Arts. As Sun Xiaoyu's head flew, someone suddenly cried out in surprise. Everyone, including Tang Yuanhang, was stunned. Only now did they realize that Yixian had used the martial arts of Prime Clarity Palace. Yixian was a disciple of Prime Clarity Palace? No, definitely not. Everyone reacted. Yixian had secretly learned Prime Clarity Palace's martial arts. What a guy. It just so happens that an emissary from Prime Clarity Palace is coming today. I'll capture you and bring you to him. Tang Yuanhang narrowed his eyes, suddenly feeling uneasy. He shouted, Attack together! Although it was unfair to bully him with numbers, Tang Yuanhang still chose to be more conservative in order to prevent accidents. In an instant, the 8 people, including Tang Yuanhang, directly attacked. 1 against 8? Fine, I'll let you see who you've offended. Yixian's arrogance surged. The scene from yesterday was still vivid in his mind. This was the first time in his life that he was trembling with anger. Kill! Yixian charged forward. 1 against 8 was actually easier than 1 against Tang Yuanhang, because the other 7 were much slower than Yixian. With 90% mastery of the Prime Clarity Demonic Stomping Steps, Yixian's speed was no slower than Tang Yuanhang's. Capture him alive. At this moment, Tang Yuanhang shouted. However, this indirectly reduced the strength of his side, greatly reducing the pressure on Yixian. Prime Clear Sword Art. Yixian used his strongest swordsmanship. Although this swordsmanship was specifically used to deal with evil creatures, with 90% proficiency, it was naturally Yixian's strongest attack. After the 2 sides came into contact, Yixian tried his best to avoid Tang Yuanhang and find trouble with others. Tang Yuanhang hadn't expected Yixian to be so powerful. He was actually able to fight against 8 people who were several levels higher than him. He rejoiced in his heart that he hadn't sent anyone to continue the fight. Otherwise, they would have been sending themselves to their deaths. Besieged by 8 people, Yixian was forced to retreat again and again, but he did not care. Come out. Xian shouted, shocking everyone. Could it be that there was an ambush here? The next moment, he saw a little bird appear behind Xian. Swish! Wei Jintian transformed into a thumb-sized bird with a sharp beak and quickly flew out. Today, it had devoured a large amount of ores and weapons, and had long grown to the essence soul realm. At this moment, it could even kill a martial artist who had opened up 18 earth veins. Wei Jintian transformed into a bird one moment, and then into a humanoid puppet the next. Furthermore, it was difficult to kill, causing a lot of trouble for Tang Yuanhang and the others. At the same time, it also shared a lot of pressure with Yixian. What the hell is this thing? Why haven't I heard of it before? Tang Yuanhang was very surprised. He couldn't be blamed for this. After all, strange beasts like rock spirits were extremely rare. Most people wouldn't be able to recognize them. After the two sides fought for half a minute, there were finally casualties. Without a doubt, the ones who died were definitely from Tang Yuanhang's side. Yixian endured the wound on his shoulder and killed one person, devouring his universe ring. Although one person died, Yixian was also injured. This was neither a win nor a loss for Tang Yuanhang's side. However, Yixian's wound healed after a second. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Yixian was fighting with them and didn't have time to heal. However, they watched as Yixian's wound healed as if nothing had happened. Haha, I said before that all of you will die here today. Yixian laughed loudly. In the next moment, another person died. A martial artist who had only opened up 16 earth veins was killed by Wei Jintian's bird transformation. Out of the 8, only 6 were left. Yixian wasn't afraid of the 8 at first. Now that he had Wei Jintian's help and devoured in Universe Ring, it was time for him to explode. Beast King Rampage. Yixian finally used a trump card that wasn't a trump card anymore. Although it wouldn't increase his strength by much, it was enough for him to get rid of the remaining 6 in this situation. Swish! Another person's head flew up. Out of the 6, only 5 were left. Tang Yuanhang finally realized that Yixian was no match for him. He hurriedly shouted, "Retreat! It's too late to leave now." Yixian devoured 2 universe rings and finally opened his 19th earth vein. He could use more chi of heaven and earth, which meant that he was faster. Swish! 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 For crisp sound were heard. Except for Tang Yuanhang, everyone was dead. Yixian chased after Tang Yuanhang with his extraordinary speed. The latter's chi was quickly depleted. Tang Yuanhang retreated while blocking Yixian's attacks. However, at this moment, bang! Tang Yuanhang's back suddenly bumped into something hard. He turned around and found that he had bumped into a green wall. What? Tang Yuanhang's eyes widened. How could there be such a hard wall in the wilderness? In the next moment, he realized that it was the transformation of Yixian's strange thing. But the collision directly led to his death. Swish! A simple and unadorned long sword pierced through his chest, piercing through his heart. This long sword was Yixian's Bahuang sword. Tang Yuanhang's eyes were wide open. He stared at the young man, who was only half a meter away from him. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Swoosh! Yixian quickly pulled out the Bahuang sword. Ding! Host has opened the 20th earth vein. After Yixian devoured Tang Yuanhang's storage ring, the notification sounded out once again. Now that he had avenged his personal grudge, the next step was to deal with the Tang family. He threw all the ores and high-ranked heavenly weapons to Wei Jintian. After Wei Jintian successfully absorbed them, he started heading toward Golden Crow City. It had been a few months since those divine core warriors were sent to Heavenly Wolf Island. The Tang family's fleet had been drifting in the ocean for a few months before they accidentally found Heavenly Water Island. Now that they had a route, it wouldn't take them more than a few months to return to Heavenly Wolf Island. Therefore, Yixian guessed that all these divine core warriors had been handed over to the Tang family. As for who the Tang family's leader was, whether it was the Heavenly Wolf Lord or the Supreme Pure Palace, he would have to find out. Without wasting any time, Yixian immediately rushed into Golden Crow City. After that, he started slaughtering his way into the mayor's mansion. Chapter 483. Be held hostage again. The upper echelons of the Tang family reacted quickly. They immediately mobilized many experts with more than 20 dragons to besiege Yixian, but they were all killed by Yixian. Yixian also broke through to 22 earth veins because of this. "Brat, don't be so arrogant." A roar resounded in the sky as a 100-year-old old man swooped down. This scene was somewhat familiar to Yixian, but this time his opponent was not so easy to deal with. "Good timing. As long as I kill you, my 23rd earth vein should be opened." Yixian roared in his heart as he charged forward. 22 earth veins and 29 earth veins were 7 different, but Yixian did not care at all. As long as his opponent could not defeat him immediately, he could exhaust him to death. Prime Clarity Sword Art. The 100-year-old ancestor of the Tang family also recognized it at a glance. "It's good that you know." Yixian coldly snorted. This old man gave him a huge pressure. This time, he might be able to use this opportunity to raise his Prime Clarity Sword Art to full mastery. The two fought for 30 rounds and were evenly matched. Although Yixian kept retreating, the old man clearly could not do anything to him. However, at this moment, "Brat, you dare to disguise yourself as a disciple of my Prime Clarity Palace? You're courting death." Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice rang out. Immediately after, Yixian felt a flash in front of his eyes. A person flashed in front of him and punched his chest. Crack! The sound of his sternum breaking resounded. Yixian, who was sent flying, focused his eyes and found that it was a middle-aged man wearing Prime Clarity Palace robes. This strength had opened at least 30 earth veins. "This person has the strength to kill me in a second." Yixian's heart trembled. If this middle-aged man wanted to kill him just now, he would probably be dead already. He did not understand why the other party did not kill him. Bang! Yixian's body slammed into a wall. In the next moment, his legs kicked off. "Run. You want to leave?" The middle-aged man's eyes widened. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Yixian in an instant. In an instant, Yixian was captured by the middle-aged man. This was the first time in his life that Yixian felt so powerless. Damn it! Yixian clenched his teeth. At this moment, he was already mentally prepared. If this middle-aged man wanted to kill him, he would give it his all and forcibly fuse with the divine bloodline. Although there was a high probability that he would die, this was his last resort. However, the middle-aged man did not seem to intend to kill him. "Elderly, this brat killed many of our Tang family's people." The old man also came over and said fiercely, "I understand, and I deeply regret this matter. Moreover, this brat also killed my Xianxia Palace's disciple and stole my Xianxia Palace's martial arts. Clan Master Tang, please rest assured he won't live for long." Elderly nodded. In the next moment, Tang family head understood what Elderly wanted to do with Yixian. He immediately agreed. "All right, let this brat enter the demon's den and enjoy the feeling of being possessed by a demon. Tang family head, in that case, I won't stay any longer. Farewell." Elderly grabbed Yixian and flew into the air. He had already finished his business, so naturally, he was going to leave. However, Yixian felt as if 10,000 grass mud horses were galloping through his heart. "Damn it! Elderly wants to throw me into the demon's den and make me a vessel for the demon." Yixian cursed inwardly. However, he could only let Elderly grab him and take him away. Apart from forcibly fusing with the divine bloodline, he had no other choice. Should I fuse with it or not? Yixian hesitated in his heart. In the end, he gave up on the idea because forcibly fusing with the divine bloodline was too dangerous. After all, he was only in the soul essence realm and had only opened 22 earth veins. He estimated that his success rate of fusing with the divine bloodline was less than 1%. As such, he could only obediently be carried by Elderly and fly towards Xianxia Palace. "Brat, you don't want to resist at all?" Elderly couldn't help but ask on the way. "Is there any use in resisting?" Yixian asked in return. "Indeed, you've only opened 22 earth veins, but I've already opened 34. The difference is huge, so it's useless no matter how you resist. I'm sure you've heard about my Xianxia Palace." There's a group of demons suppressed under my Xianxia palace. This time, I'm going to send you in, Elderly said. You want to say that since I'm going to die anyway, why don't I help you kill some demons? Yixian asked again. That's right. If it wasn't for the fact that I think you still have some value, I'm afraid you would have died in the Tang family. Elderly nodded his head and said, You're at the soul essence realm, and with your physique, you might be able to be possessed by a demon general. This is much more useful than 10,000 divine core prisoners. Yixian remained silent. Just like that, Elderly captured Yixian. After traveling for 2 days, they finally arrived at Xianxia Palace on Heavenly Wolf Island. What an eerie aura! When Yixian stepped into Xianxia Palace's territory, he immediately sensed an aura of death that was much stronger than the one he sensed in the ghost tomb. Obviously, this aura came from the Devil Cave. Elderly, this is... When a Xianxia Palace elder saw him, he immediately walked over and greeted him. He disguised himself as a disciple of Xianxia Palace and secretly learned our martial arts. I've captured him, and I'm going to throw him into the Devil Cave. Elderly replied, Good, since he knows our Xianxia Palace's martial arts, he'll be much more useful than the others in the Devil Cave. The elder nodded his head. Has the main sex elite team arrived yet? Elderly asked again. Not yet. It'll probably take some time. Good, then I'll throw this brat into the Devil Cave first. Elderly nodded slightly. Then, he grabbed Yixian and flew toward the back mountain of Xianxia Palace. Yixian was carried like a little chick. The closer they got to the back mountain of Xianxia Palace, the stronger the aura that made ordinary people feel uncomfortable. At the same time, Yixian also sensed several powerful auras. The entrance to the Devil Cave should be in the back mountain of Xianxia Palace. These auras should be the masters of Xianxia Palace guarding the place to prevent possessed demons from coming out. Elderly brought Yixian to the back mountain of Xianxia Palace and landed in the middle of a group of people. Elderly, this is... A white-haired old man asked in surprise. Sectmaster, he killed a disciple of Xianxia Palace and secretly learned our sex martial arts. So, I want to throw him into the Devil Cave, Elderly replied. I see. Then just throw him in. The white-haired old man nodded slightly and had no objection. Elderly then carried Yixian to the entrance of a dark cave. He took out a yellow talisman and said, This is the Xianxia talisman. Carry it with you, and it will prove that you haven't been possessed by demons. I'll give you a month. If you're still alive after a month, I'll let you go. Hearing this, Yixian's eyes lit up. It seemed that he still had a way out. Chapter 484. Entering the Devil's Den. The demonic army hasn't started to attack the seal yet. Hurry up and go in. Elderly let go of Yixian's hands. Yixian paused for a moment, then walked straight into the Devil's Den. There was an array at the entrance of the Devil's Den that specifically restricted evil creatures. Since he had a body of flesh and blood, he could enter and leave freely. He wore the Xianxia talisman and took out the Bahuang sword. At the same time, he said to himself, Xianxia Palace, just you wait. If I, Yixian, don't die, I'll make you pay. Yixian didn't know how dangerous the Devil's Den was, but he estimated that the sect master had opened up 40 earth veins. If an expert with 40 earth veins didn't dare to go in and exterminate the demonic creatures, then there must be something in the Devil's Den that he was afraid of. Therefore, Yixian didn't dare to relax. He followed the Devil's Den's passageway all the way down. Along the way, he saw many corpses, almost all of which belonged to humans. These people all died tragically. After a while, he arrived at a dark place. It was so dark that he couldn't see his own fingers. Terrifying screams echoed around him. This Devil's Den is under the Heavenly Wolf Island. I wonder which expert suppressed it here. Yixian was a little surprised. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a black figure suddenly flew towards him. Although it was dark here, Yixian still had the shadow leopard bloodline. He could see clearly within 2,000 meters. This black figure was the so-called demonic creature. To be more precise, it was a demonic soldier. This demonic soldier was like the vengeful spirits. Its body was translucent, but it didn't have a lower body. It danced in the air. Its two black claws were extremely sharp and could easily tear a martial artist below the heavenly dragon power in half. However, demonic soldiers would usually possess humans when they saw them. If they succeeded, they would be able to control the human's body. A mere demonic soldier dares to find trouble with me? Die. Yixian directly slashed at the demonic soldier. The Xianxia sword technique had an effect on demonic creatures. Even if Yixian was holding a tree branch, he could still kill the demonic soldier instantly. Pooh! The sword chi swept past the demonic soldier's body and instantly shattered it. Then, the demonic chi began to condense and turned into a black pearl. After a demonic creature dies, it will turn into a demonic orb. If it is not destroyed in time, these demonic creatures will be reborn. Yixian thought to himself. He was not completely clueless about this demon. Immediately, he shot forward and picked up the demonic orb. Since he had already been kicked into the demon's den, he might as well kill as many as he could. After all, the demonic orb was easy to destroy. But in the next moment, he suddenly thought of something. Since the devouring system could devour everything, the demonic orb should be able to do the same. Right? Ding! Devouring successful. When he heard the notification in his mind, Yixian's eyes widened. He was actually able to devour. Furthermore, his true energy had also increased. Ha ha ha! Yixian could not help but laugh at the sky. He was really lucky. He thought he had fallen into a trap, but he did not expect it to be a golden trap. This is really a treasure trove for leveling up. I've struck it rich. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes as he immediately charged forward. It had to be said that this was a blessing in disguise. Of course, he could not be so confident. After all, if he accidentally encountered a powerful demon like a demon general, he would be in for a tragedy. With the Bahuang sword, prime clarity sword technique, and the sword sage bloodline, any attack from Yixian was comparable to an expert who had opened 30 earth veins. Along the way, he killed all the demon soldiers he encountered with a single slash of his sword. His realm also increased bit by bit. These demon soldiers had varying levels of strength. The weaker ones were comparable to the aura realm, while the stronger ones were comparable to the level 10 aura energy realm. As for those demons that were comparable to the spirit essence realm, they were called demon generals. Yixian had been in the demon's den for 4 hours and killed thousands of demons. However, he had not encountered a single demon general. Perhaps it was because he had not yet entered the demon's den. The demon's den was extremely dangerous, so Yixian did not dare to enter recklessly. He only paced back and forth at the entrance, increasing his realm first. At this moment, he had already opened his 23rd earth vein and was about to open his 24th. In 4 hours, Yixian had increased his realm by almost 2 levels. This demon's den was indeed a treasure trove for him. However, at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly approached Yixian. What a powerful aura! It should be a demon general this time, and it shouldn't be weak. Yixian thought to himself. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Soon, the sound of hurried footsteps was heard. Footsteps, a human? Yixian was a little surprised. He raised his hand and released a few rays of sword chi to illuminate the front. With the help of the light, Yixian saw the face of the approaching person. It was really a human. A human. The approaching person was a man with a scar on his face. When he saw Yixian, he also revealed a strange expression. Although he had encountered a human, Yixian would not let his guard down because this person might be possessed by a demon. You've been possessed by a demon, haven't you? Yixian asked coldly. Little brother, how can you say that? Have you ever seen someone who could still speak after being possessed by a demon? The scar man asked in horror. I just killed one. Yixian sneered. The scar man's face stiffened. He raised his hand and slashed at Yixian. Sure enough, he had been possessed by a demon. Boom! Yixian easily defeated the sword chi and slashed it back. This scarred man should have been like him, caught and brought here to destroy the demons. But unexpectedly, he was possessed by the demons. After being possessed by a demon, the Xianxia Palace's Xianxia sword technique was not very useful. However, this scar man had only opened a dozen or so earth veins. He was no threat to Yixian at all. Swish! The sword chi swept past the scarred man's throat and cut off his head. However, in the next moment, a demon general larger than a demon soldier rushed towards Yixian. However, this demon general was not very strong and was killed by Yixian in one strike. Yixian walked over and picked up the demon general's demon orb and the scarred man's interspatial ring. Ding! Host has opened the 24th earth vein. Now he had opened a third of the earth veins. After killing this demon general, Yixian attacked again. If someone tried to chase him away now, he would definitely not leave. He was also very helpless. If he had known earlier, he would have volunteered to enter the demon cave. Time passed little by little. With the sacred tree of life's extraordinary recovery speed, Yixian continued his slaughter. In 3 days, he had killed more than 10,000 demon soldiers and several hundred demon generals. His cultivation base had also broken through from 24 earth veins to 28 earth veins. At this moment, if he were to face Elderly again, he would most likely be able to kill him. Chapter 485. Breaking Through the Seal. I've only been here for 3 days, but I've already broken through my 28th earth vein. If I'm given a month, I should be able to break through to the 40th earth vein. Yixian was very confident in himself. At the same time, he finally understood why the Supreme Pure Palace was so afraid of this devil cave. All the devil soldiers and devil generals he killed were probably just small fries in this devil cave. He estimated that there were more than 1 million devil soldiers in this devil cave. Even if the Supreme Pure Palace sent 10,000 Divine Core warriors to this place every month, it would still take them at least 10 years. Putting aside the devil generals, if 1 million devil soldiers with strength comparable to the strength and spirit realm were to rush out, the entire Heavenly Wolf Island would be destroyed. While Yixian was searching for more devil soldiers and devil generals, he suddenly heard a series of footsteps. There are people here, and there are quite a few of them. Yixian furrowed his brows. During the past 3 days, he had seen many humans possessed by devil generals. At the same time, he also noticed that the humans possessed by devil soldiers were very stupid, and they couldn't even speak. However, the humans possessed by devil generals could, and they could even lie to Yixian. Now, Yixian wasn't only hearing footsteps, he could also hear the discussions between the humans. Senior Disciple, if these devils break through the seal, the entire Heavenly Wolf Island will be destroyed. Why did the main sect only send us here? Nonsense. If those mighty warriors from the main sect are here, how are we going to train? But besides the devil soldiers and devil generals, there are also devil commanders, devil kings, and that devil lord. If that devil lord wakes up, won't we? Don't jinx it. The sect chief said the devil lord is sleeping, and there are only a few devil kings. Don't be afraid. Hearing these words, Yixian finally understood. This team wasn't possessed by a devil general. They were a team sent here by the Supreme Pure Palace to clean up the devils. Furthermore, they should be elites from the Supreme Pure Palace in the Tianju region. Coincidentally, this team of 10 was rushing towards Yixian's direction. Who are you? The leading disciple from the Supreme Pure Palace shouted out coldly. A passerby, Yixian, who was thousands of meters away, replied coldly. The leader of the disciples frowned. He found Yixian's voice very unfamiliar and immediately said, "It's someone possessed by a demon general. Kill him." In an instant, the 10 of them charged towards Yixian. Among the 10 of them, other than the young man who had opened 30 earth veins, the other 9 were between 25 and 29 and were all very strong. As expected of a disciple of Tianjue's Xianxia Palace, Yixian sighed inwardly. He suddenly recalled the few people he encountered in the Ghost Tomb territory. Those people had just stepped into the Soul Essence realm not long ago, so they should be the weakest outer sect disciples. Although they had a common enemy, Yixian was no pushover. He immediately charged over. He could choose not to take these people's lives, but he could not refuse to take the interspatial ring. In the past 3 days, apart from opening those meridians, Yixian had also improved a lot in terms of martial arts. His supreme pure sword technique had been improved to 100%, and its power had doubled. It was extremely easy to deal with this group of supreme, pure palace disciples. In less than half a minute, Xian had cut off all the disciples' wrists. As a result, Xian had opened 2 meridians, reaching 26. "Who are you?" The leading young man was shocked because he saw Xian only cut off their wrists, but not their lives. Moreover, he used the Supreme Pure Palace's martial arts. Obviously, he was not a human being possessed by a demon. Xian was too lazy to answer this question. He directly threw an interspatial ring and said, "There are healing pills inside." Then he directly left. These people were all here to kill demons, so he did not need to kill them all. After all, these people could contribute to the residents of Celestial Wolf Island. He found some demon soldiers and demon generals to kill in the surroundings. Not long after, he coincidentally encountered that team again. But this time, the team had an opponent. A demon commander? Xian frowned. The leading young man had opened 30 meridians, and the other 9 were not weak either. But now, they were all killed by a demon. Only 4 of them were left. It was obvious that their opponent was a demon commander, which was stronger than a demon general. Since he had seen it, Xian could not just stand by and watch. But when he approached, the leading young man had already been possessed by the demon commander. In an instant, the leading young man's aura skyrocketed, and his cultivation level increased by several levels. The strength of a person possessed by a demon could either remain the same or increase. This demon commander's strength was not weak to begin with. After possessing the young man's body, the young man's strength skyrocketed. Not only that, but he could also use martial arts. At this moment, the demon commander had already noticed Xian and immediately charged at Xian. "I recognize you. You're the one who cut off my wrists. I want revenge." The young man's voice fell into Xian's ears. Humans possessed by demon generals could speak, so it was not strange that the young man could speak as well. "Humph. You think you could take revenge like this?" Xian snorted coldly. Although the Prime Clarity Sword Arts did not have an amplification effect on humans possessed by demons, Xian's current cultivation level was enough to kill the young man. In less than 5 rounds, the young man's throat was cut by Xian, and blood spurted out. At the same time, the demon commander that possessed the young man also broke free and charged at Xian. Prime Clarity Demon Slaying Slash. Xian slashed out, and the slash sank into the demon commander's body. But it was not enough to kill it. "You have tenacious vitality. Die." He added another slash, and the demon commander was killed. Then it condensed into a demon orb. Xian walked over and swallowed the demon orb. Not bad. It's at least comparable to 100 demon generals. Xian was very satisfied. But at this moment, rumble. Suddenly, a series of loud sounds rang out in the sky. Xian was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted. This should be the sound of the demon army breaking the seal again. "Don't break it. I still need to level up," Xian thought to himself. Fortunately, the demon army did not succeed in breaking the seal this time. Xian had time to level up again. He spent the rest of the time in the Devil's Den, and eventually, he unlocked the 30th Earth Vein. However, as his cultivation level increased, so did his experience. At this moment, he was no longer satisfied with the experience of the demon soldiers and demon generals. He decided to go deeper. But just as he decided to go deeper, the ground suddenly began to tremble. Xian raised his head and frowned. What's going on? Could it be that the demon army is breaking the seal again? He first flew into the air and temporarily retreated. Rumble. Chapter 486. Near being possessed. Are they all the people who were sent in previously and possessed by demons? Xian thought to himself. Now, these demon soldiers and demon generals were no longer worthy of his attention. He would rather kill a demon marshal than 10,000 of them. However, with so many small fries attacking the seal, there would definitely be a demon marshal leading them. Thus, Xian watched from the sky. Sure enough, after a short while, he felt 2 powerful auras. "They're charging at me. Kill." Xian no longer hid and directly dove down. This was his first time encountering 2 demon marshals at the same time. However, with his realm, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with them. In an instant, The demon soldiers and demon generals below were swept away by him. Then, the two demon marshals appeared. Have they all been possessed? How pitiful! Xian felt a little helpless. He glanced around in the darkness. As expected, these possessed humans were very young disciples sent in by the Xianxia palace. These two demon marshals didn't waste any time and directly charged at Xian. Xian had already opened 30 earth veins, and his Xianxia sword arts had reached 100% mastery. Killing these two was extremely easy. In less than 10 seconds, these two demon marshals were separated from the main body because they were killed by Xian. However, it took him less than 3 seconds to deal with these two demon marshals. Ding! Host has opened the 31st earth vein. At the mention of the notification, Xian helplessly shook his head. He didn't know when he would encounter a demon king. However, the large group of demon soldiers and demon generals below couldn't be wasted. Xian immediately slashed forward with a Xianxia demon-slaying slash, reaping hundreds of demon soldiers in one strike. In a short while, this demon army was completely eradicated by Xian. Before the demon soldiers and demon generals possessed a body, their intelligence was very low. They were like wild beasts that only had a beastly nature. When they saw a living person, they would charge over. Even if Xian was alone, they would still madly charge over until the human died or was possessed. Xian estimated that there were around 30,000 of them, but that was not enough for him to open the 30-second ley line. He had wiped out an entire magical creature army, which should have greatly reduced the pressure on the people outside. However, just as he was about to leave, suddenly, a sharp gust of wind blew over. Xian froze as he felt an extremely powerful aura. General Demon? No, this aura had already surpassed the Demon Commander. Demon King. Finally, the main character has arrived. Let me see the strength of this Demon King. Xian held the Bahuang sword and quietly stood in place. It didn't take long for a black figure to arrive a kilometer in front of him. The Demon King's appearance was not much different from other demons, except that it had a few horns. However, its aura was much, much stronger than the infernal soldiers and infernal generals. You want to possess my body, right? Come at me if you have the ability. Xian said to the Demon King. As soon as Xian finished speaking, the Demon King directly pounced at him. Before possessing the body, demons were actually easier to deal with. Of course, this was for Xian, who had learned the Prime Clarity sword art. Prime Clarity Demon Slaying Slash. Xian directly slashed at the Demon King several times. However, this Demon King's speed was faster than Xian's full speed, so it wasn't that easy to deal with. Xiao! 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 Sword lights constantly broke through the darkness. After more than 10 attacks, Xian couldn't hurt the Demon King at all. This made Xian have to be cautious. As expected, you have some skills. This is going to be troublesome. Xian's expression darkened. He didn't expect this Demon King to be faster than him. If this was the case, it would be difficult for him to escape. However, his chances of winning were still relatively high. Prime Clarity Demon Stomping Steps, Demon Breaking Pillar. Xian suddenly stomped on the ground. Immediately, a holy pillar of light rose from under his feet. Then, he quickly retreated. The Demon King flew in front of Xian and extended his claws to scoop it up. When it touched the pillar of light, a sizzling sound was emitted and black smoke was emitted from the black claw. This was one of the moves of the Prime Clarity Demon Stomping Steps. It could create a pillar of light. If any evil creature entered, it would be refined into ashes. When the Demon King saw that one of its claws was burned, it was immediately enraged. It circled around the demon-breaking pillar to find trouble with Xian. However, Xian took one step at a time and trapped the Demon King in more than 10 demon-breaking pillars. It's not human after all. It's easier to deal with than a human. Xian sneered in his heart. He launched an attack on the Demon King, trapped in the middle of the demon-breaking pillars. These demon-breaking pillars had a time limit. Moreover, they were only a few dozen meters tall. If the Demon King wanted to escape, it would be relatively easy. Xian hurriedly flew into the air and attacked the Demon King from above. The Demon King had already risen into the air to avoid Xian's sword energy. However, at this moment, whoosh! Suddenly, the Demon King's speed increased sharply. It exceeded Xian's expectations. What? It's hiding its strength? Xian's eyes widened as he watched the Demon King get closer and closer to him. His consciousness reacted, but his body didn't. The Demon King's sudden burst of speed was at least 30% faster than before. Xian couldn't catch up to it from start. Now that its speed had increased by 30%, the battle situation changed instantly. Whoosh whoosh! The Demon King's flying sound was very loud. At this moment, it was already in front of Xian. Damn it! Xian cursed and threw out a sword energy. However, the Demon King easily dodged it. The Demon King's remaining arm reached out and touched Xian's chest. Just as it was about to possess him, a golden light suddenly bloomed from Xian's chest and shook off its hand. What? Xian was already prepared to fight the Demon King, but he didn't expect such a thing to happen. At this moment, he felt his chest heat up as if something was burning. It's that Xianxia talisman. He instantly reacted. The Xianxia talisman could block a demonic possession once. The Demon King's claw was directly shaken off. However, this Xianxia talisman was gone. If the Demon King wanted to possess him, it could do so from the front, back, left, or right. However, Xian's reaction was faster than it. Xianxia sword art, Xianxia demon exterminating slash. With a swift swing of the Bahuang sword, it directly struck the Demon King's body and sent it flying. Not only that, the Demon King was also severely shaken by this attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xian attacked wildly. Although not all of the Xianxia demon exterminating slashes hit, 3 of them were hit. Chapter 487. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation escaping alive. Phew, that scared me to death. Xian heaved a sigh of relief. If he was possessed by the Demon King, he would be in deep trouble. Fortunately, he had the Xianxia talisman. The Xianxia talisman was something that every Xianxia Palace disciple knew how to use. However, Xian's Xianxia talisman was made by elderly, so its quality was much better. So this thing can resist the Demon King's possession. Unfortunately, there's only one. Xian thought helplessly, then hurriedly put away the Demon King's demonic orb and devoured it. Ding! The host has opened the 34th ley vein. The system notified. 31 ley veins had shot up to the 34th ley vein. The Demon King's experience points were indeed quite high. This time it was a close call. Xian hurriedly took out a few Xianxia talismans and stuck them all over his body. He also understood that these Xianxia talismans were not easy to make. These elites from the main sect only had 1 or 2 in their interspatial rings. Now, Xian did not dare to be careless. If he could not resist the Demon King and was possessed by it, his consciousness would be instantly erased. At that time, he would no longer be himself. Even if the Demon King escaped, only a soulless, empty shell would be left. It's better to progress slowly. This Demon King should be considered weak. If I encounter a strong one, it will be troublesome. Xian decided not to go deeper. Instead, he returned to the periphery to hunt demon soldiers and demon generals. Time slowly passed. At this time, it had been half a month since Xian entered the demon cave. After the frightening experience last time, Xian was very careful. He did not encounter any Demon King again. Because of this, he had opened 36 ley veins. However, just as he was killing monsters to level up, a deafening sound rang out in the demon cave. Is it breaking the seal again? Xian was very calm this time. This was the 3rd time he had entered the demon cave. However, in the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. This loud sound did not seem to be from the demon army. Could it be that the Demon King has awakened? Xian suddenly shivered. This demon master was the biggest boss in this demon's Denver. He was also the one that Xianxia Palace feared the most. Previously, he had heard from the elite disciples of the Xianxia Palace that this devil lord seemed to still be in a deep sleep but now that he thought about it, he should have woken up. Before the Demon Master woke up, it was always the Demon King or Demon Marshal who led the soldiers to attack the seal. Now that the Demon Master is awake, the seal, Yixian shuddered. All of a sudden, he had a bad premonition in his heart. He just didn't know if the Xianxia Palace had sent any more masters. However, he understood that he absolutely could not deal with this Devil Lord. No matter what, it's better to hide first, in case we meet. Yixian decided to go into hiding. This loud sound reverberated throughout the entire demon's den. The sound reverberated for a whole 5 minutes before it finally stopped. Immediately after, the sound of the demonic army gathering together and charging towards the entrance of the demon's den could be heard. The demon's den doesn't only have one entrance. If so many people who are possessed by the demonic creatures rush out, even those masters will have to kill them for a long time. If they buy time for the Demon King, I'm afraid the seal won't last long. Yixian thought to himself. He just waited quietly in one place. This was an unusual time, so it was better for him to be honest. Every time the demonic creatures attacked the seal, there would be a huge commotion. However, this time, they stopped very quickly. This time, they were destroyed too quickly. Something doesn't feel right. Yixian, who was hiding in a corner, frowned. He wondered if the demonic army had broken through the seal and seen the light of day again. The seal of the demon's den was useless to him. Even the humans possessed by the demonic creatures could get out. Therefore, if these demonic creatures had broken through the seal, then the people of the Xianxia Palace must be busy at this time. He might be able to take the opportunity to escape the demon's den. Let's go take a look. About half an hour later, Yixian made a decision in his heart. He immediately rushed towards one of the entrances. Just now, the deafening sound reverberated, but now it was completely silent. This was very suspicious. When he arrived at the entrance of the demon's den, he found that the formation at the entrance had been broken, and there were countless demonic creatures floating in the air outside. The seal was indeed broken. At this time, the masters of the Xianxia Palace were constantly fighting with the demonic creatures. Not only that, but there were also masters from various forces on the Celestial Wolf Island. There's another one here. Suddenly, a loud shout sounded. Yixian turned his head and found that several disciples of the Xianxia Palace had surrounded him. These people thought that Yixian was a human possessed by the demonic creatures. Since you've delivered yourselves to me, don't blame me. Yixian quickly rushed out and took away the interspatial rings of these disciples of the Xianxia Palace. However, he did not take their lives. After all, the Celestial Wolf Island was in deep trouble. These people could still kill the demonic creatures if they were alive. Taking advantage of the chaos in the Xianxia Palace, Yixian quickly left. However, he changed his mind and decided to take a look first. After all, there would be a large number of demonic creatures here. He might be able to get some Demon King's demon orbs. Now that he had opened 36 earth veins, he could begin to open the heaven veins after opening 36 more. His strength was considered the top on the Celestial Wolf Island. He immediately took out a mask and killed his way out. A large number of demonic creatures were suppressed in the demon's den. Ever since the demon lord woke up, these demonic creatures rushed out. At this time, a large number of demonic creatures had broken through the encirclement, left the Xianxia Palace, and began to wreak havoc on the Celestial Wolf Island. The Xianxia Palace did not expect the demon lord to wake up so quickly. Fortunately, the Xianxia Palace of the Celestial Wolf territory sent experts. Otherwise, the Xianxia Palace of the Celestial Wolf Island alone would have been destroyed in an instant. After Yixian saw the light of day again, he began to run quickly. He had 2 targets. One was the demonic creatures, and the other was the humans' interspatial rings. In any case, he wanted everything that could help him improve his realm. Along the way, he also saw many human corpses. Most of these human corpses had interspatial rings, so Yixian benefited. Ding! The host has opened the 30th earth vein. After hearing the notification, Yixian's lips curled up slightly. Although his leveling speed in the demon's den was fast, it was still faster to obtain interspatial rings. At this moment, from the corner of his eyes, he saw a familiar figure. This figure was fighting with a long-horned demon king. Is that Elder Li? Yixian recognized him. This Elder Li was the Xianxia Palace elder who threw him into the demon's den that day. However, if he had not given Yixian a Xianxia talisman, Yixian would have been possessed by the demon king. Chapter 488. Time is of the essence. Elder Li had only opened 34 earth veins. Now that Yixian had opened 3 earth veins higher than him, the latter had the ability to kill him instantly. Elder Li was currently being suppressed by a demon king and was in constant retreat. He was in danger of being possessed at any moment. Bang! Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. The demon king was jolted back a little. It had bumped into Elder Li's talisman. It was because of these talismans that Elder Li was able to hold on until now. Unfortunately, this was the last talisman he had. The demon king's claws reached out again. This time, it wanted to possess Elder Li. Elder Li's expression darkened. He knew that he was most likely doomed this time. However, at this moment, Prime Purity Demon slaying slash. Suddenly, several extremely powerful sword beams swept over, instantly striking the Devil King's body. The Devil King's body shook violently before dispersing. Instant kill. What? Elder Li was startled. He turned his head and saw a masked figure rushing towards him. The masked figure then put away the Demon King's demon orb. The masked figure who saved Elder Li was naturally Yixian. However, just as Elder Li was about to thank him, Yixian rushed in front of him and took away his interspatial ring before he could react. Back at the Tang family, it was Elder Li who captured Yixian and threw Yixian into the demon cave. However, before he threw Yixian in, he gave Yixian a Prime Purity Talisman. This Prime Purity Talisman saved Yixian's life. Therefore, Yixian was repaying the favor by saving him. And now, Yixian was avenging the Tang family's punch by taking Elder Li's interspatial ring. I'll spare your life. Yixian coldly snorted in his heart. He glanced at Elder Li and quickly left. Elder Li was also dumbfounded. Yixian had killed the Demon King, which meant that he wasn't possessed by a demon. However, he never expected that Yixian would be so greedy as to steal his interspatial ring. Most importantly, he felt that this masked man's figure was a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. He put away the Qian Kuan ring that Yixian had left behind and found that the things inside had disappeared, leaving only a few bottles of healing medicine. This, Elder Li's eyes widened. He recognized his own universe ring. But how did so many things in it disappear? After Yixian left, he quickly rushed towards the nearby powerful auras. Some of these powerful auras were Devil Kings, while others were elders of Xianxia Palace. In any case, every time Yixian passed by, he would gain something. After robbing everyone in the vicinity, Yixian finally opened the 38th Earth Vein. Although the situation was urgent and he was taking advantage of the situation, if his strength increased, his contribution would definitely surpass that of all the elders combined. He circled Xianxia Palace a few times and found many Devil Kings, but he didn't find a Demon Lord stronger than them. It seemed that the Demon Lord had already mixed in with the army of demons and left. He didn't know if Heavenly Wolf Island could survive this calamity. Yixian also left and began to chase after the demons. After the demon army broke through the seal and saw the light of day again, they scattered in all directions. No matter how strong the humans were, it was impossible to stop them all. Yixian flew to a city near Xianxia Palace. Sure enough, this city had been invaded by demons, and screams of agony could be heard. Demons could possess a human. Even if the human was killed, they could survive and continue to possess another human. When the demons invaded a city, they would possess a human, then crazily attack the surrounding humans. They wouldn't even let go of the ordinary civilians. Looks like Heavenly Wolf Island is finished. Yixian shook his head helplessly. The demon army numbered in the millions, and each of them was comparable to a physical strength warrior. However, there were less than 100,000 physical strength warriors on Heavenly Wolf Island. Furthermore, even if a demon possessed a divine core warrior, it would still cause their overall strength to skyrocket. Therefore, Heavenly Wolf Island simply couldn't defend against these demons. Perhaps in just a few days, the entire Heavenly Wolf Island would be destroyed. Yixian sensed his surroundings as well, but he didn't find any powerful demons in this city. At most, they were at the Devil General level. Therefore, he turned around and left. It wasn't that he didn't want to save these people, but he had something more important to do. When a human was possessed by a demon, it could be said that they had become possessed by a demon. These people would retain their consciousness, and they would kill anyone they saw. If Heavenly Wolf Island was destroyed, they would most likely attack the other islands. Therefore, what Yixian needed to do now was to kill his way to the Tang family and prevent what happened in the Heavenly Water Continent from being leaked. Also, he needed to find out who the Tang family had reported what happened in the Heavenly Water Continent to. However, Yixian guessed that they must have reported it to the Lord of Heavenly Wolf Island. After all, the Lord of Heavenly Wolf Island had the most power. No matter what, he couldn't allow the location of the Heavenly Water Continent to be exposed, even if it meant wiping out the entire Tang family. Although there were many innocent people in the Tang family, there were hundreds of millions of people living in the Heavenly Water Continent. If the demons found the Heavenly Water Continent, they would be finished. Without hesitation, Yixian started flying towards the Tang family. Back then, it took Sect Elderly 2 days to bring him here. But this time, Yixian traveled by himself and arrived at the Tang family in less than half a day. The demon army had just appeared, and they were still attacking the cities and sects around the Xianxia Palace. Therefore, it was impossible for them to arrive here. Yixian directly rushed into the Golden Crow City Lord Manor and sought out the Tang family patriarch. The patriarch was still dealing with family affairs. When Yixian appeared in front of him, he was so scared that he almost had a heart attack. "Sir, you are..." The Tang family patriarch paled. He had already opened 29 earth veins, but Yixian was able to silently appear in front of him. His strength was definitely far greater than his own. "I ask you, who knows about the Heavenly Water Island incident?" Yixian coldly asked. "Heavenly Water Island?" The Tang family patriarch's expression changed. He didn't understand why Yixian would ask such a question. "Sir," the Tang family patriarch opened his mouth, but before he could finish, a beam of sword energy slashed at him and severed his arm. "I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Who knows about the Heavenly Water Island incident and who you reported it to? List them one by one. Otherwise, I'll slaughter your entire Tang family." Yixian's tone was unyielding. He didn't allow the Tang family patriarch to refuse. Yes, the Tang family patriarch swallowed his saliva. He hurriedly took out a pen and paper and began to list the names one by one. Soon, he came up with a list. There were many sailors who discovered the Heavenly Water Island that day. I only listed the members of my Tang family. The Tang family patriarch timidly handed over the paper. Chapter 489. Translator. Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo, Studio Demon Lord No. Clan Master Tang nodded solemnly. Good. Yixian didn't waste his breath and directly cut off his head with a single sword strike. Yixian had no choice but to use this method due to the urgency of the situation. After keeping Clan Master Tang's interspatial ring, he quickly left to search for the people on the list. It was a huge project because there were thousands of people who had arrived at Sky Water Island. Some of them were not in Golden Crow City, so Yixian could not kill them all. Therefore, he could only kill those who were stronger. After all, ordinary people only knew about Sky Water Island, but not its exact location. Yixian circled Golden Crow City for about a day before he killed the people on the list who were still in Golden Crow City. A day later, the demonic army arrived at Golden Crow City. Yixian's face darkened when he saw the densely packed black figures in the sky. He then charged toward them. Ding! Host has opened the 39th Earth Vein. Yixian quickly left after cleaning up the large group of demonic creatures. This time, his target was Heavenly Wolf City. The discovery of a new island by the Tang family's fleet naturally had to be reported to the Heavenly Wolf Lord for a reward. Therefore, Yixian had to do it again. Fortunately, Heavenly Wolf City was very far away. Before Yixian arrived at Heavenly Wolf City. The demonic creatures had not invaded. The Heavenly Wolf Lord was an expert who had opened more than 50 earth veins. However, he was not a threat to Yixian because he was not in Heavenly Wolf City. Yixian directly rushed into the governor's mansion of Heavenly Wolf City and began to investigate Sky Water Island. The entire governor's mansion was in an uproar. Before the demonic army arrived, Yixian had already caused a ruckus. Unfortunately, no one could stop Yixian. After Yixian killed all the warriors, he also opened up the 41st Earth Vein. At the same time, he also learned that the Heavenly Wolf Lord had gone to help Xianxia Palace. Even the Heavenly Wolf Lord knows about it. It seems that I have to kill him too. Yixian, who was in the Heavenly Wolf City's City Lord's mansion, narrowed his eyes when he heard this news. If it had been in the past, he would have only needed to inform the Sky Wolf Lord about the Sky Water Island. The Sky Wolf Lord would definitely not go against Yixian for such a barren island. But now, the Sky Wolf Overlord had gone to help slay the fiends. It would be troublesome if he was possessed by a Fiend King or Fiend Master. Therefore, this person had to die as well. However, Yixian did not know where he was, so he could only wander around Sky Wolf Island. Apart from looking for the Sky Wolf Overlord, he killed demon soldiers, demon generals, and demon marshals to level up. Before the demonic army arrived, Yixian had already charged in the direction of Xianxia Palace. However, after searching for a period of time and seeing countless cities that had fallen, he still couldn't find the upper echelons of Xianxia Palace or the Celestial Wolf Lord. After all, even if he wanted to traverse Heavenly Wolf Island, it would still take him a few days. Left with no choice, he could only continue to kill the demonic creatures and rescue the people in danger. He began to kill the demonic creatures to level up. Although the demon soldiers and demon generals gave little experience, the interspatial rings of the dead humans were worth a lot. At this time, he had already returned to Jinwu City. More than a day had passed since the demonic army broke through the seal. Yixian estimated that the cities and sects closer to Xianxia Palace would not be able to escape and would all be destroyed. Looks like Heavenly Wolf Island is indeed unable to escape calamity. However, just as he was about to leave, a series of loud noises suddenly came from the horizon. There are powerhouses fighting. They should be at least demon marshals. Yixian frowned and hurried in that direction. In the next moment, his expression froze because he sensed several extremely powerful auras. Found them. That was Yixian's first thought. He sensed a total of 5 powerful auras, and all of them were stronger than him. At this time, he had already opened his 42nd Earth Vein. There were not many who were stronger than him. Immediately, he rushed over with all his might. After a short while, he saw 5 figures fighting. 3 against 2. No, it should be 2 against 3. 2 old men dressed in Xianxia Palace's uniform were fighting against 3 people. Among the 3 people, there were also 2 experts dressed in Xianxia Palace's uniform, but they were from Xianxia Palace on Heavenly Wolf Island. As for the other person, he was a burly man. Yixian's eyes narrowed. That burly man was the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory he was looking for. It seems that those 2 have been possessed. One of them is probably the Demon Lord, Yixian guessed inwardly. He could sense the demonic aura on the 2 old men. At the same time, he could see that the 3 people on the side of the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory were at a disadvantage. They were constantly being beaten back. The Demon Lord and the Demon King are both possessed. Their strength is very strong. If I join them, I should be able to turn the situation around. If I can get their interspatial rings, my realm might be able to improve again. At that time, I can join forces with the 3 of them to kill and devour the Demon Lord. After that, I will deal with the other 3. Yixian planned his heart. The plan was very simple. He would first help the humans kill the Demon Lord. After breaking through his realm, he would turn hostile and kill the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory and seize the 3 people's interspatial rings. The plan was perfect because he believed in his strength. As long as he joined the humans, he would definitely turn the situation around. He hurriedly flew towards the 5 people. However, what he did not expect was that when he arrived, one of them had been killed, and his corpse fell from the sky. The one who died was not the human possessed by the Demon King, but an elder of Xianxia Palace. Oh no! The expressions of the Xianxia Palace Lord and the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory changed. Not only that, but Yixian was also the same. He originally wanted to fight 4 against 2, but now, even if he joined, it would still be 3 against 2. However, he quickly flew over. He first took the interspatial ring of the headless body that fell from the sky and then hurried over to help. Is he a friend or a foe? The Xianxia Palace Lord and the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory looked at each other. When they saw Yixian attacking the Demon Lord, they understood that Yixian was a human and was on their side. Resist with all your strength and wait for backup, the Xianxia Palace Lord shouted. He did not realize that Yixian was the guy that Elder Li sent into the demon lair that day. Another one has come to die. Humph! If I hadn't just woken up and my strength hadn't recovered to its peak, you would already be dead. A white-haired old man shouted. He was the Demon Lord now. This possessed Xianxia Palace head sect elder had already opened 47 earth veins, but after being possessed by the Demon Lord, his realm soared. He was even able to fight against the Xianxia Palace Lord and the Lord of Heavenly Wolf territory who had opened more than 50 earth veins by himself. Chapter 490. Translator, Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo Studio. The Demon Lord appears this human was also an elder of the Xianxia Palace. He had already opened 45 earth veins. After being possessed, his strength had also surpassed 50 earth veins. Yixian was originally a little confident, but after exchanging blows with this elder, he dared not be so sure. This was because this elder's Xianxia swordsmanship and Xianxia demonic stomping steps had probably been raised to 100%, which put a lot of pressure on Yixian. Good, my Xianxia demonic stomping steps hasn't reached 100% yet. Yixian's eyes lit up. He could observe while fighting. As long as he could raise it to 100%, he would be able to kill his opponent. Of course, he also prayed that the 2 experts would not be killed by the Demon Lord. Otherwise, he would be dead meat. The 5 of them exchanged blows in the air. The sound was as deafening as thunder. Although his Xianxia demonic stomping steps was much weaker than his opponent's, Yixian saw hope. This was because the Demon Lord possessed a human strength. However, it was impossible to have an endless supply of qi. As long as he could stall for time, the Demon Lord would be killed by Yixian. As long as the Demon Lord died, Yixian could join forces with the other 2 experts to besiege the Demon Lord. However, at this moment, 3 figures swept over from the horizon. What? The serious Lord turned his head to look. His face immediately turned gloomy because he felt demonic qi. These 3 people had been possessed by demonic beings. Damn it! Yixian and the other 2 cursed in their hearts. They were done for. The Demon Lord was already so strong. If 3 more people came, it would be 5 against 3. They would be dead meat. Haha, go to hell. The Demon Lord suddenly laughed. Taking advantage of the moment when the serious Lord was in a daze, he suddenly drilled out of the Xianxia Palace elder's body and swept over. This happened so quickly that the serious Lord was possessed before he could react. The Xianxia Palace Lord widened his eyes. He was in despair. However, this was an opportunity for Yixian. Whoosh! Yixian suddenly swept over to the Demon Lord's body. What is he doing? Yixian's opponent was a little puzzled and chased after him. Without a doubt, Yixian's target was naturally that Qian Kuan ring. An elder from the Xianxia Palace in the Tianjua territory would definitely be very wealthy. Ha! Yixian rushed in front of the soulless body and took off his Qian Kuan ring, instantly devouring everything inside. Ding! The host has unlocked the 43rd Earth Vein. Level up. In an instant, Yixian's aura skyrocketed. Coincidentally, the Demon King had caught up to him. Yixian immediately turned around and slashed with his sword. What? The Demon King did not expect Yixian to suddenly break through and was unable to dodge in time. He could only abandon his body. Hiss! The head of this Tianjua Palace elder was thrown into the air. His universe ring was also obtained by Yixian. Devour. Although it didn't help Yi Xian break through again, it still improved his cultivation by quite a bit. Now you're dead meat. Yi Xian's eyes suddenly opened wide. The Demon King, who had lost his body, was much weaker than him. His speed was too slow compared to him. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds rang in the air. This was the sound of Yi Xian using the Xianxia demonic stomping steps to walk in the air. Ding! The proficiency of the Xianxia demonic stomping steps has increased. The current proficiency is 100%. The effect is doubled. This notification caused Yi Xian's morale to soar. This was really timely. Whoosh! In an instant, Yi Xian swept in front of the Demon King. Xianxia demonic slaying slash. Yi Xian quickly slashed with his sword and directly hit the Demon King's body. The latter immediately shook violently and screamed loudly from this hit. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian attacked and directly eliminated the Demon King. Yi Xian devoured the Demon King's demonic orb, and his strength increased again. At the same time, the Demon King also killed the Xianxia Palace's palace lord. When he turned his head, he saw that Yi Xian was quickly flying into the distance. However, Yi Xian was not running away. Instead, he was rushing toward the 3 possessed warriors. Being surrounded was not a good sign, so Yi Xian wanted to get rid of these 3 people first. Fortunately, these 3 people were not very strong. They did not even have the strength of 50 earth veins and were easily killed by Yi Xian. Ding! The host has opened the 44th earth vein. After devouring the 3 people's interspatial rings and 3 demonic orbs, Yi Xian's realm increased again. 2 breakthroughs in a row. The Demon King who possessed the celestial wolf lord frowned slightly. Then his eyes lit up and he said, "Boy, I want this body of yours." Immediately, he flew toward Yi Xian. "My body is not for you to take as you wish." Yi Xian's eyes flashed and he rushed back. Just now, he could not do anything to the Demon King. Now that he had broken through twice, he estimated that he could definitely stop the Demon King. However, to be on the safe side, he first rushed toward the Xianxia Palace Lord's corpse. The Demon King did not know that Yi Xian could devour heaven and earth treasures to level up. He only knew that Yi Xian's aptitude was not bad, so he did not stop him. Instead, he prepared to capture Yi Xian and possess him. Yi Xian easily obtained the Xianxia Palace Lord's interspatial ring, and his strength increased again. At this moment, the Demon Master finally reacted. "Haha, although I don't know how you did it, your body is mine." The Demon King laughed loudly and pounced on Yi Xian. "You want my body? Let's see if you have the ability," Yi Xian said coldly. Now, the Demon King did not have any helpers. Although Yi Xian did not have any helpers, he had a superior recovery ability. Previously, he had a great battle with the Sirius Lord. Although he was possessed by the Demon King, he did not have much true qi in his body. Therefore, Yi Xian had a high chance of killing the Sirius Lord and forcing the Demon King to appear. After possessing the Sirius Lord, the Demon King's strength increased. However, Yi Xian had mastered the Xianxia demon stomping steps to full mastery, so he was evenly matched with the Demon King. During the battle, the Demon King kept looking at Yi Xian with a greedy expression, as if Yi Xian's body had become his private property. However, as time passed, he discovered that there was a problem with true qi. This kid's true qi is endless. How many secrets does he have? The Demon King was very puzzled. The two fought for a full minute. Then, the Demon King quickly retreated because of the true qi. After him, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. This meant that the Demon King did not have much true qi left. This was a good opportunity to beat a drowning dog. At this time, a shadow suddenly appeared behind the Sirius Lord. Yi Xian was startled. This was the Demon King leaving this body. Chapter 491. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin Trapped? You're finally going to show yourself. Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He immediately seized the opportunity to attack. As long as he could obtain the Celestial Wolf Territory Lords Yin and Yang ring, his strength would increase significantly. Then, killing the demon lord would be a piece of cake. Soon, the demon lord escaped from the celestial wolf territory lord's body. This body was running out of vital energy. Xian remained vigilant. Just now, the demon lord had moved his body like this. He couldn't allow himself to fall so easily. He's out. The demon lord finally escaped from the celestial wolf territory lord's body. After escaping, he quickly rushed towards Xian. I don't want the yin and yang ring anymore. I'll kill you first. Xian shouted in his heart. He launched a few prime purity demon-slaying slashes at the demon lord. However, what he had forgotten was that the last time a demon king's speed had suddenly increased explosively. Today, he saw it again. Kid, you're finished. Demonic disintegration technique. The demon lord roared in his heart. He suddenly increased his speed and dodged the prime purity demon-slaying slashes in an instant. He charged straight into Xian's body. The prime purity talisman that Xian's body had stuck on was completely useless against the demon lord. It was immediately burned to ashes by the demonic energy. Xian widened his eyes. At this moment, he could already feel an aura drilling into his brain. His consciousness was quickly fading away. No, I can't let him take over my body. Xian roared in his heart. He knew that if the demon lord wanted to take over his body, he would have to erase his soul. If the demon lord succeeded in taking over his body, then even if the demon lord left, he would become an empty shell without a soul like the heavenly wolf territory's lord. His willpower was fighting against the demon lord. Kid, stop resisting. It's useless. Don't worry, I'll find your wife. I'll make you the strongest person in the world. The demon lord's voice rang in Xian's mind. He was luring Xian and weakening Xian's consciousness. F***ck your mother. I'll find my wife, my father, and my brother-in-law myself. Get the F***ck off. Xian cursed as he resisted. It had to Xian's mind to say his willpower. If Xian was Yi, he would have been obliterated by the demon lord. What a stubborn brat. To have to disappear to me. The demon lord roared. Disappear my F***you. Xian was. He of Yi was of his of the of. It's to Yi. And Xian were in a standoff. It had to be said that Xian's willpower was the strongest the demon lord had ever seen. The demon lord fought for 5 minutes, but was unable to destroy Xian's willpower and take over his body. Bastard, you can't take over my body. Get the F***ck out of here. Xian cursed in his mind. He was also surprised by his strong willpower. Impossible. It wasn't easy for me to find a body like yours. How can I let it go so easily? F***ck off. The two were in a stalemate for another 5 minutes. They were still locked in a stalemate. The demon lord was very angry. As long as he could take over Xian's body, he would be able to take revenge after a period of secluded cultivation. Unfortunately, Xian's willpower was beyond his imagination. He estimated that he would not be able to take over Xian's body even if he fought for another day. Thus, he decided to go out first and capture Xian. Then, he would slowly grind away at Xian's willpower. But in the next moment, he was stunned. He realized that he was unable to leave Xian's body. He was trapped. Stinking brat, what did you do? I can't get out. The demon lord shouted in Xian's mind. Can't get out? Xian was startled. He was eager for the demon lord to leave his body. How could he not get out? At this moment, the demon lord shouted again. That golden dantian, what the hell is that? It's trapping me. Golden dantian? Xian paused. Golden dantian, wasn't that the devouring system? Brat, hurry up and let me out. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. The demon lord panicked. If he was trapped in this body, then it meant that he could no longer take over other people's bodies. If Xian was killed, then his soul would scatter. How would I know how to get out? Xian said angrily. Damn it, you don't know? I can't wait to chase you out. Why would I restrict you? Xian replied. Damn it, you stinking brat. Don't do anything stupid. Otherwise, I'll kill you even if I have to self-destruct. The demon lord panicked. Now that he was trapped in Yixian's body, he couldn't control Yixian's body. If Yixian killed himself now, then he would die too. You damn thing, hurry up and get out. Your golden dantian is restricting me. What do you think I should do? How would I know? The two of them started cursing each other, directly cursing each other's parents and ancestors. Then, Yixian realized that something was wrong. You were human when you were alive? Yixian asked in astonishment. Nonsense. I only cultivated demonic arts and was heavily injured and sealed by a villain. I had no choice but to become like this. The demon lord replied. Then where did the other demonic creatures come from? Yixian asked again. They were formed from the demonic qi I exhaled over the years, the demon lord replied. Now, Yixian finally understood. There was a group of demonic creatures suppressed under Xianxia Palace on Celestial Wolf Island. In fact, there was only the demon lord in the beginning, but as time passed, so many demonic creatures were born. However, now wasn't the time to talk about this. The demon lord was trapped in Yixian's body. This was a timer. If Yixian wasn't careful and the demon lord seized his body, then he would be in trouble. Therefore, Yixian had to kick the demon lord out of his body. Brat, this golden dantian isn't under your control. I won't take your body anymore, as long as you help me complete one thing. The demon lord suddenly asked. What? Yixian asked in astonishment in his mind. I became like this because of Xianxia Palace, so I want you to help me destroy Xianxia Palace. Once it's done, I'll self-destruct. The demon lord replied. Destroy Xianxia Palace? Self-destruct? Yixian asked. Which one are you referring to? Xianxia Palace seemed to have branches in many territories. Xianxia Palace on Celestial Wolf Island was one of them. Xianxia Palace on Celestial Wolf Island was the earliest one. After that, the experts of Xianxia Palace went to Celestial Wolf Island and built another one. They even listed it as the main branch. However, I want you to destroy all of Xianxia Palaces, the demon lord said. All of them. Chapter 492. A secret not passed on. What if I don't agree? Yixian asked again. If you don't agree, then we can only perish together. I can't take over your body, but that doesn't mean I can't kill you. Without waiting for Yixian to speak, he added, the people from the Supreme Pure Palace aren't good people either. On the surface, they seem to be exterminating all evil creatures, but in reality, they're secretly capturing people who cultivate the demonic Tao, using them to nurture demonic creatures, and then killing them to use the demon orbs and the like to cultivate. After Yixian heard this, he was very surprised. He didn't expect Xianxia Palace to be so bad. What kind of experts does Xianxia Palace have in Tianjua territory? Yixian narrowed his eyes and asked. I was once a candidate for Xianxia Palace's palace master, but another person ambushed me and seriously injured me in order to get the position. At that time, he had already opened 65 veins. If he was still alive, he might have already reached the peak of Earth Vein or Heaven Vein. The demon lord replied. Yixian rolled his eyes and thought, if you didn't cultivate the devil Tao, why would he do that to you? However, he didn't dare to say it out loud. What if he angered the demon lord and caused him to self-destruct? Peak of Earth Vein, I only have 40 veins. How do you want me to avenge you? Yixian asked. What are you afraid of? Can't you quickly increase your realm? You can start with those weaker Xianxia Palace first. After your strength increases, you can go to Tianjua territory. The demon lord said. Is that so? Yixian's eyes suddenly narrowed. Although the demon lord ran into his mind and read his memories, he didn't seem to know about the devouring system. He only knew that Yixian had a special method to quickly increase his strength. After all, the devouring system was the devouring system. It could even exchange for god-rank bloodlines. How could it be controlled by a soul essence realm demon? I can help you, but you better keep your word. Yixian said. Don't worry, I've already become this kind of thing that's neither human nor ghost. As long as you help me destroy Xianxia Palace, I'll self-destruct. I definitely won't go back on my word. The demon master said solemnly. Although Yixian didn't want to work with him, was there any other way? Yixian felt very helpless. First, he went down and took the universe ring of the palace lord of Xianxia Palace, then swallowed it. Then, he said in his mind, "Can you summon your demonic army? Although these demons were created by me, they have their own consciousness. Unless I'm very close to them, I can't control them." The demon lord answered in Yixian's mind. "Then I'll circle around Heavenly Wolf Island and use your soldiers to break through. Is that all right?" Yixian asked. "As you wish. Even if they all die, it has nothing to do with me." The demon master was indifferent. Since that was the case, Yixian quickly left. As long as those demons were nearby, they could be controlled by the demon master. However, Yixian was only one person. Even with his speed, it would probably take him a month to circle around Heavenly Wolf Island. However, this way of leveling up was more stable. By the time Yixian finished cleaning up the demonic army, his realm had also increased to 48 ley lines. At this time, he finally understood how huge this demonic army was. There were at least several million of them. Under the demon master's control, this demonic army was at the mercy of Yixian. Needless to say, it was very satisfying. A month later, Yixian's meridians had also directly opened up to 52 ley lines. He had opened up a total of 8 ley lines. However, after the demonic army's baptism, Heavenly Wolf Island was completely unrecognizable. Out of the hundreds of millions of people, only a few million remained. It was simply too tragic to look at. After learning this number, the demon master didn't care at all and coldly said, "Humph, you can't blame me for this matter. Blame it on the Pure Palace." Yixian didn't feel like talking nonsense with him and directly left Heavenly Wolf Island for the Bloodcliff continent. Fortunately, the demon master had been waiting for nearly 100 years. So, Yixian wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to inquire about Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song. Heavenly Water Island was actually very close to the Bloodcliff continent, but it was separated by the chaotic Astral Oceans territory, so no one dared to rush over. Heavenly Wolf Island wasn't far from the Bloodcliff continent, so Yixian directly flew over the sea for 2 days to reach it. At this time, his destination was a low-grade territory on the coast of the Bloodcliff continent. However, this territory didn't have a branch of the Pure Palace, so he went around this territory and left some information in some organizations. This information was left for Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song as long as they came to this territory. Then, Yixian went to a mid-grade territory where there was a branch of the Pure Palace. The Palace Master of the Xianxia Palace branch had only opened up 40 earth veins, so Yixian directly plundered the entire Xianxia Palace before calmly leaving. Originally, the Demon Master wanted Yixian to slaughter the entire Pure Palace, but Yixian refused. Otherwise, this branch of the Pure Palace would have already been destroyed. Similarly, he also left a message in this territory and then hurriedly left. The Bloodcliff continent wasn't like the Heavenly Water continent. He didn't have the Omni Mirror, so he could only use this method to find Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song. Time slowly passed. As long as Yixian passed by a territory, he would leave a message in that territory. Moreover, he left a lot of heavenly treasures, enough to keep the message up for 5 years. As long as Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song saw it, they would pass through the deep-sea underground palace and return to the Heavenly Water continent to wait for Yixian. Of course, this was under the premise that they hadn't broken through to the spirit realm. Yixian spent an entire month running through all the cities in the coastal territories. After that, he continued to loot the Xianxia Palace. The Pure Palace could be considered a top power among the mid-grade territories. It had branches in more than 10 territories. Unfortunately, all of them had been ransacked by Yixian. After ransacking these branches, Yixian directly opened his 56th earth vein. In the end, these branches were only branches. The strongest among them only had 60 earth veins. This was something that Yixian could easily deal with. "Brat, you have finished your business and increased your cultivation. Isn't it time to go to the Heavenly End territory?" The Demon Master's voice echoed in Yixian's mind. Yixian pondered for a bit. With his current cultivation, he should be able to challenge experts with 10 earth veins. In other words, he should be able to fight experts with 66 earth veins. However, this was still far from the realm he had in mind. Isn't it too early? Yixian asked. Chapter 493. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Dao, Heart Demon Seed Technique. A secret? What's that? Yixian's eyes lit up. This martial art is called Dao Heart Demon Seed Technique. It wasn't created by the people of Xianxia Palace, but an incomplete version that the first palace lord of Xianxia Palace obtained by chance. If it was complete, it would probably be a supreme grade heaven tier martial art. This martial art can instantly increase your combat strength, but it requires demonic pearls. That's why I asked you to leave some demonic pearls behind, Demon Lord replied. Dao Heart Demon Seed Technique? This name sounds a bit. Yixian frowned. Yes, this martial art is very powerful, but it has side effects. It requires a demonic seed to be planted in the depths of your heart. Every time you use it, the demonic seed will grow and increase in strength. When it grows to a certain extent, it will cause you to go berserk or even be consigned to eternal damnation, with both body and soul destroyed. I once relied too much on this martial art, so I went berserk and lost my conscience, Demon Lord replied. Every time you use it, the demonic seed will grow and increase in strength. Yixian narrowed his eyes. His current Beast King rampage could no longer increase his strength by much. This Dao Heart Demon Seed technique was indeed good, but unfortunately, there was a danger of going berserk. However, as long as he used it carefully, it shouldn't be a problem. You'll teach this martial art to me? Yixian was a little skeptical. I've already become like this, so why should I hide it? As long as you learn this martial art, it won't be a problem to destroy Xianxia Palace, Demon Lord said solemnly. You're not playing any tricks, are you? Yixian was still a little worried. After all, this was a Demon Lord who had gone berserk when he was alive. Your willpower is so strong, so you'll definitely be able to use it more than me. Just tell me if you want to learn it or not. If you do, I'll teach you immediately. If you don't, go find a place to train yourself. I can still wait. Demon Lord snorted. Yixian thought for a moment. He suddenly remembered that he still had the devouring system. As long as Demon Lord told him about the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique, he could copy the martial art into the devouring system and verify it. Go ahead, I'm listening. Yixian nodded. All right, listen up. The Devil Master did not waste any more time. He immediately recited the chant of the Dao Heart Seed Devil technique. Yixian immediately memorized it. Ding! Copy of Dao Heart Demonic Seed, great technique successful. After hearing the notification, Yixian's eyes lit up. This martial art was actually real. He thought that the Devil Lord was playing a trick on him. He thought that the Devil Lord had taken advantage of him while he was cultivating to take over his body. But now it seemed that he was being overly suspicious. Dao Heart's Seed Devil technique, incomplete. Yixian raised his eyebrows. Because it was incomplete, it could only be considered a high-grade heaven-level martial art. It could not be considered a top-grade martial art. At that moment, he consumed some Devourer crystals and directly learned this martial art. Anyway, Devourer crystals were useless to him now, and there were no side effects even if he didn't use them. Ding! Host has learned the Dao Heart Demonic Seed technique. Demonic Seed chapter. You learned it? Demon Lord suddenly felt the change in Yixian and asked in shock. Yes, not bad. Yixian nodded. His heart was already blooming with joy. He just did not know how much this Dao Heart Demonic Seed technique could increase his strength by. You really do have many secrets. There are many gaps in your memory, and I can't read it. After committing suicide in Lianyan City, you seem to have become a different person. You killed gods and Buddhas in your way. In just a few days, you killed your way from such a barren place to the Bloodcliff continent. Demon Lord was also very curious. Yixian was the most talented person he had ever seen. Yixian did not say much. He knew that the Devil Master would not know about the Devour system's memory. Okay, I will go to the Heaven Absolute territory now. Yixian's confidence suddenly increased. I will also take a step back. As long as you kill all the upper echelons of the Xianxia Palace and disband the Xianxia Palace, the mission will be considered complete. Demon Lord said. Okay, the Heaven Absolute territory was the strongest middle-grade territory in the Luoxia region. It was infinitely close to being a high-grade territory. Here, Essence Soul Realm cultivators could be seen everywhere, and Spirit Realm cultivators were as common as dogs. Yixian did not waste time and directly rushed to the Xianxia Palace of the Heaven Absolute Territory. Soon, he arrived at the Xianxia Palace of the Heaven Absolute Territory. The Xianxia Palace of the Heaven Absolute Territory was similar to the others. They were all solemn and solemn. They liked the color white very much. At this time, there was an endless stream of people in front of the Xianxia Palace. It seemed that they were holding some kind of grand event. Demon Lord used Yixian's eyes to sense it. The anger in his heart immediately erupted. What a hateful aura. Destroy them. Demon Lord gritted his teeth and said, "You feel that their aura is hateful, and they feel the same. I also have to thank you. If I get close now, I will definitely be discovered by them." Yixian coldly snorted. "What are you still standing there for?" Demon Lord asked somewhat agitatedly. "Why are you in such a hurry? Can't you see that the Xianxia Palace seems to be holding some kind of grand event? With so many people gathered together, you will definitely be besieged as soon as you enter." Yixian rolled his eyes. He wanted to secretly sneak into the Xianxia Palace and quickly raise his level. After all, it was safer this way. Now that the Xianxia Palace seemed to be holding some kind of grand event, many foreign martial artists had gathered. If he rashly rushed in, he was afraid that he would die very miserably. Then fly higher and see what tricks they are playing. Demon Lord reminded him. "You don't need to remind me." Yixian flew high into the sky. He flew to a layer of clouds that ordinary people couldn't see, and then looked down. Sure enough, thousands of experts had already gathered in the Xianxia Palace. There were foreign martial artists, as well as people from the Xianxia Palace. "Kid, look at the middle." Suddenly, the Demon Lord reminded him. Yixian focused his eyes and saw a figure in the middle of the arena, surrounded by thousands of people. "He's been tied up. What's going on?" Yixian was somewhat confused. "I feel that this person is emitting a large amount of demonic energy. You should be cultivating demonic arts. The Xianxia Palace should be holding a demon extermination conference." Demon Lord said, "A demon extermination conference." Hearing this, Yixian instantly understood. Were they trying to kill the chicken to warn the monkey? The person tied up in the middle of the arena below was probably not weak. He should have done something to be captured by the Xianxia Palace and then killed in front of thousands of people. In addition to the Xianxia Palace, there seems to be a powerful force in the Heavenly Absolute Territory called the Killing Luo Sect. This person should be an expert from the Killing Luo Sect, Demon Lord said again. This was the information that Yixian had inquired before, so Demon Lord also knew. Then let's wait and see this Demon Extermination Conference. Anyway, you're not in a hurry, Yixian said. Okay. Chapter 494. Demon Extermination Conference. There were quite a lot of people who came to Xianxia Palace to watch. After all, it was the #1 sect in the Tianjua territory. There was an endless stream of people coming up, and the number soon exceeded 10,000. Moreover, this was only counting the cultivators of other forces, not the disciples of Xianxia Palace. Yixian was rejoicing that he didn't rush in rashly. Otherwise, he would definitely be considered an accomplice of that Killing Luo sect expert and be besieged by tens of thousands of people. He waited in the air for a while more, and then the higher-ups of Xianxia Palace came out. The leader was a middle-aged man with a sage-like appearance. He wore a white robe and held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He walked out under the gazes of tens of thousands of people. Behind him were 10 white-robed old men. At first glance, they were not ordinary people. Welcome to Xianxia Palace to participate in the Demon Extermination Conference. I'm sure everyone has heard of the fierce reputation of Killing Luo sect. The main character of today's Demon Extermination Conference is the left guardian of Killing Luo sect, Li Jinhui. This person once lowered his status to various middle-level and low-level territories, slaughtering and plundering. Hundreds of thousands of people died under his sword, and he even disbanded more than 10 branches of Xianxia Palace. Today, I will kill this person in front of everyone. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace said loudly. Most of the people present had heard about what he said. Anyway, Li Jinhui was a vicious and merciless person of the demon sect. His death was not regrettable. However, Yi Xian, who was eavesdropping in the air, suddenly raised his eyebrows. Wasn't he the one who disbanded those branches of Xianxia Palace? How did it become Li Jinhui? TSK. You acted decisively and quickly, leaving no trace at all. So this Li Jinhui became your scapegoat, the demon lord said sarcastically. I only looted, but he massacred. Yi Xian corrected. Although he needed a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, he was not so bloodthirsty. For those who were much weaker than him, he would choose to let go of most of them. Therefore, he only followed the style of this world. There was a fundamental difference between him and the people of the demon sect. At this time, the palace lord of Xianxia Palace took out a silver-white long sword and slowly walked toward Li Jinhui, the left guardian of killing Luo sect. Li Jinhui, do you have any last words? Xianxia Palace's palace lord inquired. When Li Jinhui, who was tied up by special rope, heard this, he also angrily rebuked. F***ck your grandmother. The one who robbed your branch wasn't me. Shut up. You people from a demonic sect are full of nonsense and disregard human lives. Now, I'll give you a chance to say your last words. Don't be ungrateful. The palace lord of Xianxia Palace shouted coldly. F***ck your cousin. Li Jinhui was not afraid of power and continued to curse. Hiss. However, as soon as his voice rang out, one of his arms was directly chopped off. Because his entire body was tied up, his arm did not fall to the ground and was still connected to his body. However, a large amount of blood spurted out, splattering all over his face. I'll give you one more chance. The palace lord's face darkened. F***ck your grandfather. Li Jinhui gritted his teeth and shouted, trying to make everyone hear him. Hiss. Another crisp sound rang out. His other arm was also chopped off, and the pain pierced through his heart. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being heartless. After the palace lord of Xianxia Palace said coldly, he shouted, Everyone, anyone who has a grudge against Li Jinhui can come up and stab him. Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. Anyone can stab him? Immediately, thousands of people jumped off the high platform. Li Jinhui was about to cry. Damn it, I'm going to be stabbed thousands of times. Yi Xian, who was high up in the sky, looked a little helpless when he saw this scene. Look, the Xianxia Palace is just a group of wolves in sheep's clothing. They're equally vicious and merciless. Instead of killing the other party, they choose to torture the other party, the demon lord muttered. Yi Xian nodded silently. He had not tried torturing people many times, and Tang Tian was the only one who did it. Immediately after, people lined up below to stab Li Jinhui. Li Jinhui gritted his teeth and persevered. If there were too many wounds on his body, the palace lord of Xianxia Palace would take out healing pills to help him recover. The Demon Extermination Conference instantly turned into a Demon Extermination Conference. So miserable. Yi Xian shuddered. He thought that if he was the one below, he would probably die a tragic death. He had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. If he was stabbed, as long as it was not the head or the heart, he could quickly recover. Not to mention 1,000 swords. Even if it was 10,000 swords, 100,000 swords, or 1,000,000 swords, he could withstand it. However, just as Li Jinhui withstood 100 swords, a group of black shadows swept over from the horizon. Kid, look over there, the demon lord suddenly reminded. Yi Xian turned his head in surprise and was stunned. A group of black shadows flew over from the horizon. These shadows were not sacred beasts, but people. All of them were experts dressed in black. There were more than 1,000 of them. This could be the killing Luo sect. Yi Xian said in shock. That's right. Everyone has demonic chi on them. They should be the other superpower in the Heaven Extinction Territory, the killing Luo sect. I'm afraid their purpose this time is to save the left guardian, Li Jinhui. They might even want to destroy the Xianxia Palace. The heavens are helping me, the demon lord said. What kind of joke is this? 1,000 people want to destroy tens of thousands? Yixian could not believe it. Don't underestimate them. I feel several powerful auras. They are much stronger than when I was alive. Even if they are not Heaven Vein experts, they are at least peak Earth Vein. The Demon Lord reminded again. Heaven Vein. Yixian swallowed. He had destroyed so many Xianxia Palace branches and only opened 58 Earth Veins. Peak Earth Vein was the title for martial artists who had opened about 70 Earth Veins. He thought about it and felt that something was wrong. He asked, "That's not right. Does the Killing Luo sect have so many experts?" He had heard that the Killing Luo sect only had one peak Earth Vein expert. How could there be so many powerful auras? The people of the demonic sects are a group of martial artists who have turned into demons. Their methods are ruthless and cruel, but they are very united. The Killing Luo sect must have gone to other territories or even high-level territories to call for help, the Demon Lord explained. If that's the case, then we are really lucky to have followed your wishes, Yixian said. Indeed, the heavens are helping me. As long as I can see the destruction of the Xianxia Palace, I will die without regrets. The Demon Lord suddenly laughed. His laughter echoed in Yixian's mind. He had been severely injured and sealed. He had no choice but to turn into a demon, so he had long thought of himself as a dead person. Yixian muttered in his heart, "It's not my business whether you die or not. Just keep your promise." Chapter 495. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. A great battle was imminent. Yixian was most worried that the Demon Lord was just casually talking and taking him as a fighter. After all, the Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace had just said that the people of the demon sect were full of nonsense and did not mean what they said. Now, not only did Yixian and the Demon Lord notice this group of black figures, but even the tens of thousands of people in Xianxia Palace saw them. Killing Luo sect. They must be from Killing Luo sect. They really came. The left guardian of Killing Luo sect has been captured. They can't just sit by and watch. However, the Killing Luo sect only brought 1,000 people. Are they here to die? The martial artists below were all discussing, and the scene suddenly became lively. They were here to participate in the Demon Extermination Conference, so they might be able to see a battle between 1,000 people. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace snorted when he saw the people from Killing Luo sect. He had expected this. Immediately, the experts of Xianxia Palace gathered in the arena. Soon, the people from Killing Luo sect arrived in the sky above Xianxia Palace. Left Guardian, you've suffered. The sect lord of Killing Luo sect said to Li Zhenhui, "I can bear with this kind of injury." Sect lord, destroy Xianxia Palace. Li Zhenhui replied loudly. "Shut up." Just as he finished speaking, a person flashed to his side and threw a slap. Slap. The sound was crisp and clear, and everyone heard it. The people from Killing Luo sect were immediately enraged. They clamored and wanted to rush up, but they were stopped by the sect lord. Xianxia Palace's slap was not only on Left Guardian Li Zhenhui's face, but also on the entire Killing Luo sect. Today was supposed to be Xianxia Palace's Demon Extermination Conference, but since you've delivered yourselves to us, we'll destroy your entire Killing Luo sect today. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace said coldly. Is that so? The sect lord of Killing Luo sect narrowed his eyes. The two sides looked at each other in silence, and the people around them also quieted down. Who knew if a fight would break out in the next second? At this time, a figure suddenly walked out of the Killing Luo sect's team. This person was not from Killing Luo sect. Xianxia Palace, I'll give you a chance. Release the Left Guardian of Killing Luo sect and hand over the Dao Heart Demon Seed Magic Art. And I'll spare your lives today, the man in green said. Who are you? The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace narrowed his eyes. Just now, this man in green had been in the crowd, and his aura had been concealed. Now that he had walked out, the Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace realized that this person was not any weaker than the sect leader of Killing Luo sect. The green-robed man only replied slowly. Hearing these 3 words, the people of Xianxia Palace and the others present were all stunned. The Green Ghost League was not a power from the Heaven Absolute territory. Instead, it came from a high-grade territory. No, to be more precise, it was for the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique. It's you. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace had a gloomy look on his face. He didn't expect that the forces of high-grade territories would come as well. This was troublesome. An elder of Xianxia Palace jumped out and shouted angrily. It was unknown whether he objected to the Alliance Lord of killing Luo sect or both. If that's the case, then I have nothing to say. The Alliance Lord of killing Luo sect snorted and stepped aside. The Alliance Lord of killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance had formed an alliance. As long as they obtained the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art, they would make a copy and divide it among themselves. I'll give you one more chance. Release the Left Guardian of killing Luo sect and hand over the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art. Xianxia Palace will not be destroyed. The Sect Lord of killing Luo sect said again. The Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art was a very powerful martial art. If the Demon Sect's people obtained it, it might be more powerful than the Xianxia Palace's people. Impossible. If you want to fight, then fight. The elder shouted again. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace looked on with a gloomy face, as if he was hesitating. Not only that, but the tens of thousands of people around were also worried. After all, they were still here. What kind of martial art is the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art? Why haven't I heard of it before? It must be a secret of Xianxia Palace. Since Xianxia Palace would rather fight to the death than compromise, this Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art must be very powerful. Not necessarily. Maybe Xianxia Palace has the confidence to destroy this group of demon sect people? That's right. It's possible. The surrounding martial artists discussed softly. They were not afraid of being implicated. After all, there were tens of thousands of people here. Only 1,000 people came from killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance. You really don't agree? The Sect Lord of killing Luo sect narrowed his eyes. Cut the crap. The Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace made his decision. He could hand Li Jinhui back, but the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art must not fall into the hands of the Demon Sect. Because if killing Luo sect became stronger, even if Xianxia Palace was not destroyed today, who would know in the future? Therefore, the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art must not be leaked, especially to the Demon Sect people. All right, since that's the case, we'll do it ourselves. Kill Luo sect, listen up. Attack. Green Ghost Alliance, listen up. Kill. The leaders of the two demon sects shouted angrily. In an instant, thousands of demon sect people swooped down and killed the group of elders and disciples of Xianxia Palace. A great battle broke out in an instant. As one of the top forces in Tianjua territory, Xianxia Palace was not weak. However, what shocked everyone was that in the first wave of attacks from both sides, 1/5 of the Xianxia Palace's experts had perished. Killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance were all elites. They had more experts than Xianxia Palace. After seeing Xianxia Palace's miserable state, the experts of other families and sects looked at each other and shouted, "Help!" Although they were not from Xianxia Palace was an existence that restrained killing Luo sect. If Xianxia Palace was destroyed, they would suffer in Tianjua territory. However, not many forces joined Xianxia Palace's side. At this time, many people began to leave. After all, they did not want to participate in the battle. If Xianxia Palace was destroyed, they would be affected. Tens of thousands of people were reduced by more than half in an instant. Yi Xian, who was watching from the sky, took a look and estimated from a macro perspective. Although Xianxia Palace had reinforcements, their strength was not comparable to killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance. Demon Lord, is it difficult to learn the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art? Yi Xian suddenly asked. What do you mean? You learned it in an instant. Why are you still asking this? Demon Lord said, in confusion. Then how many of Xianxia Palace's experts do you think know the Dao Heart Demon Seed magic art? Yi Xian asked again. I understand. Chapter 496. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin Heaven Vein Expert, 5 Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. There were at least 3,000 elders and disciples of Xianxia Palace who had joined the battle. It was not bad that only 5 of them knew the Tao Heart Seed Devil technique. All right, then I'll go to Yixian's confidence sword. After all, he was not the main force in the capital of Xianxia Palace. Moreover, there were a large number of corpses on the ground that had not been collected yet. He could go and steal them first. He immediately swooped down from the sky. Many people noticed him. Although he exuded the aura of the Demon Lord, the Demon Lord was not very strong in the eyes of these demon sect experts. These people noticed Yixian because they had never seen Yixian before. They guessed that he was a passerby who cultivated the demon technique and came to lend a hand. Soon, Yixian swept to the ground and began to quickly collect the interspatial rings. Good boy. How dare you take advantage of the situation? Go to hell. An elder of Xianxia Palace swept toward Yixian. Xianxia Palace was also divided into inner and outer sect. Even the elders were the same. Those who were sent to Tianjua territory were all outer sect elders, so they could only open 50 earth veins at most. But now, the elder who targeted Yixian had opened 63 earth veins. However, such a realm was not enough for Yixian. Xianxia's sword technique. Yixian swiftly swept behind him and directly sent his head flying with a blow. He then collected the interspatial rings. This scene fell into the eyes of those who were paying attention. What? Xianxia's sword technique? That kid actually knows the Xianxia sword technique. Impossible. He exudes demon chi. How can he know the Xianxia sword technique? He must have killed a disciple of Xianxia Palace. Who would have thought that this demon sect member had cultivated our Xianxia sword technique to full mastery? What a disgrace. Soon, many people noticed Yixian and descended to find trouble with Yixian. However, no one was able to catch up to Yixian. More and more corpses fell onto the arena, but no one dared to take advantage of the situation like Yixian did. Therefore, Yixian benefited from these corpses. Ding. Host has unlocked the 59th Earth Vein. Ding. The host has unlocked the 60th Earth Vein. After Yixian collected hundreds of universe rings, he had also opened 60 Earth Veins. After all, the Heaven Absolute territory was the Heaven Absolute territory. In such a short period of time, he had gained more than what he had gained in the past few months. The Xianxia Palace, the Killing Rakshasa sect, and the Green Ghost League were fighting above, while he was reaping the benefits below. Although there were some flies that came to bother him, his current strength was not something that could be stopped by just anyone. There is only to mention how awesome this feeling was. The battle had already lasted for half a minute. Even if Xianxia Palace had more than 3,000 people on their side, the evil cult was full of elites. Half a minute later, there were only around 1,000 people left in Xianxia Palace, while only 200 to 300 people from the evil cult died. This was the difference between them. When the elders of Xianxia Palace saw that the situation was not right, they looked at each other, then directly used the martial arts that they did not want to use the most. Tao Heart Demon Seed, great technique. Suddenly, 4 waves of evil aura surged into the sky, and the aura of 4 righteous elders from Xianxia Palace skyrocketed. One of them blocked the leader of the Green Ghost League, while the other 3 bravely killed their way into the enemy camp and began a frenzied slaughter. At the same time, the left guardian of the Killing Rakshasa sect, Li Zhenhui, was also rescued by one of them. He began to treat his wounds and prepared to join the battle. Although other forces joined Xianxia Palace's side one after another, it was still difficult to resist the powerful evil cult experts. Very soon, less than 1,000 people from Xianxia Palace had died. At this time, Yixian had also unlocked the 62nd Earth Vein. Yixian actually wanted to join the battle, as it was too cowardly to collect fish below. However, just as he was about to rush up, the Demon Lord suddenly stopped him. Don't go. I sense a powerful aura. It should be the hidden experts from Xianxia Palace. The Demon Lord reminded him. A powerful aura? How powerful? Yixian frowned. He did not sense anything. There were several peak Earth Vein experts here, but the Demon Lord did not say anything. Now that he suddenly reminded him, it meant that the newcomer could be a Heavenly Vein expert. Heavenly Vein experts. I'm sure there are at least 2 of them. The demon lord replied. 2 heavenly vein experts. Yixian was stunned. There was a qualitative leap from peak earth vein to heavenly vein. If these 2 heavenly vein experts joined the battle, then the situation could really be reversed. This is too much. If they had come out earlier, would so many people have died? Yixian asked in his heart. However, if these 2 heavenly vein experts had come out earlier, he would not be able to be the fisherman anymore. He might even be discovered. Retreat. Yixian decided to temporarily hide. Not only that, but the group of evil cult experts in the sky also began to gather. They all sensed that there were experts approaching. Sure enough, after Yixian retreated, 2 figures swept over from not far away. The 2 experts from Xianxia Palace flew into the sky. They did not talk nonsense and directly joined the battle. Haha, just as I expected. It's you old guys. Master, you should come out too. The leader of Killing Luo sect laughed. As soon as his voice fell, 3 figures also descended from the sky. They were the heavenly vein experts of Killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance. Sure enough, the evil cult also had a backup plan. The reason why these 3 experts did not appear directly was because they guessed that Xianxia Palace also had heavenly vein experts. If they came out, the heavenly vein experts of Xianxia Palace would also appear. If that was the case, they might as well hide first. After all, the evil cult experts were all elites. Before the heavenly vein experts of Xianxia Palace appeared, they had the advantage and could kill as many as they could. With the appearance of these 5 heavenly vein experts, the battle directly entered a white-hot stage. It's him? The demon lord suddenly said. Who? Yixian, who was hiding behind the evil cult camp, frowned and asked. One of these 2 is the disciple of my enemy. I didn't expect him to still be alive. The demon lord recognized one of them. If that's the case, then your enemy might still be alive. It's possible. If the Essence Soul Realm martial artist doesn't have any major injuries, it won't be a problem for him to live up to 150 years. Yixian stood at the back and talked to the demon lord. At this moment, he could not help but gasp when he saw the 5 heavenly vein experts fighting. There was indeed a qualitative leap between the peak of the earth vein realm and the heavenly vein realm. The yuan qi of heaven and earth they could mobilize was much more than that of the earth vein realm. Any random heavenly vein expert could challenge all the earth vein realm martial artists in the opposing camp. Although Xianxia Palace had 2 heavenly vein experts, the evil cult also had 3 heavenly vein experts. Therefore, the evil cult still had the advantage. Chapter 497. The enemy appears, Doubt, Heart, Demon, Seed, Great Technique. The 2 heavenly vein experts from Xianxia Palace exchanged glances and used this technique without hesitation. In an instant, their strength skyrocketed. The 3 heavenly vein experts from the demon sect quickly retreated. One of them shouted, Hold on, we just need to delay them for a while. This kind of martial art that suddenly increased one's realm couldn't be permanent. As long as the Tao Heart Demon Seed Great Technique's duration was over, their advantage would return. After sensing the 2 monstrous demonic auras, the demon lord also said, All right, you go too. Put some pressure on Xianxia Palace. Otherwise, these 2 demonic sects may very well be annihilated. All right. Yixian nodded slightly and directly attacked. At this time, he had opened the 62nd Earth Vein. With the mysterious Bahuang sword and Sword Saint bloodline, he could be considered a peak Earth Vein expert. Whoosh! His burst of speed was very fast, even faster than that of the Killing Rakshasa sect master. After he joined the battle, the disciples and elders of the Xianxia Palace, who were already beaten back by the experts of the Dark Sect, felt even more pressure. Xianxia Sword Art Die. Yixian used his Xianxia Sword Art and Xianxia Demonic Trampling Steps to shuttle through the crowd. Those peak Earth Vein Stage experts were the same as the Heaven Vein Stage experts. They were all fighting each other, so no one paid any attention to Yixian. Most importantly, Yixian killed all of them without mercy, whether they were from Xianxia Palace, Killing Luo sect, or Green Ghost Alliance. Xianxia Palace was the power that the Demon Lord had declared to destroy. Otherwise, he would perish together with Yixian. The people of the demon sect weren't good people either, so Yixian naturally wouldn't show mercy. He could be considered to have become the public enemy. Which side does this person belong to? Not only were the people of Xianxia Palace thinking this, but so were the people of Killing Luo sect and Green Ghost Alliance. Even the cultivators of the various major powers outside were the same. A masked man with a large amount of demonic aura actually used Xianxia Palace's martial arts and mercilessly killed the experts of both sides like a mad dog. Where did he come from? Everyone was puzzled. Just as they were feeling astonished, the battle was about to come to an end. There were only slightly more than 400 people from the Xianxia Palace left, while the demon sect still had 600. Even if the two High Purity Palace's Heaven Vein Realm experts used the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique, they wouldn't be able to do anything to the three Devil sect's Heaven Vein Realm experts. Therefore, this battle was more or less a foregone conclusion. The people from the demon sect all looked delighted. After all, victory was in sight. However, at this moment, suddenly, a powerful demonic aura shocked everyone present. What a strong devil chi. It's coming from that direction. Who is it? Everyone's eyes widened. This demonic chi was much stronger than the three Heaven Vein Realm experts of the demonic sect. You just didn't know where this expert came from. While they were still in shock, another figure came from the back mountain of Xianxia Palace. It was an old man in a white robe. This old man's face was already covered with all kinds of black threads, and his pair of completely black eyes were horrifying. I knew you weren't dead. After seeing this person through Yixian's eyes, the demon lord also shouted. Yixian instantly understood and asked, "He's the one who severely injured you and sealed you." "That's right. I'd recognize him even if he turned into ashes because he's my senior brother." The demon lord was unusually agitated. His demonic seed is on the verge of becoming a demon. After using it, he'll become a demon and lose his mind. Quick, use the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique and break through quickly. Otherwise, you'll be killed by him. Yixian was stunned. This black-eyed old man's demonic seed was on the verge of becoming a demon. This would be the last time he used the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique. At this moment, his combat strength was enough to contend with three Heaven Vein Realm experts. If he joined the battle, the demon's sex advantage would instantly dissipate, and they would be slaughtered to death. Yixian didn't hold back anymore. Dao Heart Sea Devil technique. Yixian directly used his trump card, and the black demonic seed in his heart also grew a little stronger. At the same time, his meridians also expanded, and his control over the chi of heaven and earth increased. Kill. He quickly rushed out and began to kill the experts of Xianxia Palace. After the black-eyed old man appeared, he also rushed toward the 5 Heaven Vein Realm experts. As long as these 3 Heaven Vein Realm experts were dealt with, the situation would be settled. "Master, a Heaven Vein Realm expert of Xianxia Palace said in shock. "Don't talk nonsense. Kill. When the time comes, I'll end my own life." The black-eyed old man was still conscious, but after the effects of the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique wore off, he would lose his mind. At that time, he would kill anyone he saw, and the entire Xianxia Palace might be destroyed. Therefore, he chose to end his own life. However, for now, he had to deal with the demon sect experts first. With the black-eyed old man joining the battle, the demon sect was under great pressure. At this time, the 3 Heaven Vein Realm experts of the demon sect seemed to be facing 5 or 6 Heaven Vein Realm experts of Xianxia Palace. However, on the other side of the chaotic battle, there was a shocking change. After using the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique, Yixian's strength skyrocketed. At this time, he was also considered a Heaven Vein Realm expert. Even the Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace was no match for him, because the effects of the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique had already worn off. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yixian wantonly killed the experts of both sides, and his realm also increased bit by bit. Now, the remaining experts were all elites. They were very strong, and at the same time, they were also very wealthy. At this time, Yixian was preparing to kill a Xianxia Palace elder who could use the Dao Heart Sea Devil technique. "Brat, although I don't know which side you are from, I can't let you run wild like this. Die." A peak Earth Vein Realm Elder of Xianxia Palace shouted. If you want to kill me, we'll have to see what you're capable of. Yixian glared. This was the person at the top of Xianxia Palace, so he must have a lot of good things in his interspatial ring. Although there were no side effects after using the Dao Heart Seed Devil technique, it would strengthen the demonic seed in one's heart. Therefore, these Xianxia Palace elders didn't dare to use it recklessly. This Xianxia Palace elder had already used it 3 times before, and just now, he used it for the 4th time. He estimated that he could use it 4 times at most. If he used it for the 5th time, he would be like the black-eyed old man, whose eyes would turn black and become demonic after a while. Therefore, he didn't pose much of a threat to Yixian at this time. Xianxia's Sword Technique. Xianxia Demonic Trampling Steps. Chapter 498. The last time Prime Clear Sword Technique died, Yixian glared and slashed out with his sword. I can't care about that anymore. The elder used the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique for the last time. The white in his eyes was gone, and his eyes turned completely black. However, at this moment, rip, the elder had just finished using the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique when his head was chopped off by Yixian. He was one step too slow after all. Yixian rushed over and put away his universe ring, opening the 63rd Earth Vein. The sound of the elder's corpse falling to the ground fell into the ears of the others. That brat, the black-eyed old man, also noticed it. He narrowed his eyes and shouted, "One of you go." When the person beside him heard it, he nodded and said, "Master, I'll go." Although it was 3 against 3, the black-eyed old man was very strong. He could fight against 3 people, so even if one of them left, it would not be a problem. The Heaven Vein expert who was going to find Yixian was the black-eyed old man's disciple. At the same time, he was also the next palace master of Prime Clear Palace. He was currently the 2nd strongest person in Prime Clear Palace and had already opened 2 Heaven Veins. However, he could no longer use the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique. Brat, you killed so many of my Prime Clear Palace's people. Go to hell. The gray-robed old man roared and charged towards Yixian. With his 100 years of age, it was already humiliating for him to attack Yixian, who was only 20 years old. However, it was a matter of life and death for Prime Clear Palace now. He could not care so much. A Heaven Vein expert has finally come. Kill. Yixian's expression suddenly became serious as he went forward. This was the first time he fought with a Soul Essence Realm expert who had opened a Heaven Vein, but he knew that it would definitely not be the last. Dao Heart Demon Seed Technique. Yixian used it again. Brat, don't use it again. With your realm, you can only use it twice at most. The 3rd time will demonize you. The Demon Master reminded him in his heart. I know, Yixian replied inwardly. He had underestimated Xianxia Palace's strength, and also overestimated his own strength. He was already thinking that if the Dao Heart Seed Devil art couldn't destroy Xianxia Palace this time, then he would flee. After all, if he used it a 3rd time, the Demon Master might take advantage of the situation. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them began to fight. They fought fiercely until the sky turned dark. At the same time, the battle on the black-eyed old man's side was coming to an end. The black-eyed old man was the Devil Master's senior brother. This was the last time he would use the Dao Heart Seed Demon technique. If the duration passed, he would lose his mind. However, he had already opened up 3 Earth Veins. With the help of the Dao Heart Seed Demon technique and another Heavenly Vein expert from the Xianxia Palace, he had already injured the 3 people from the demon sect. If he was given a few more seconds, the 3 Heavenly Vein experts from the demon sect would all die in his hands. You actually want to destroy my Xianxia Palace? Die. The black-eyed old man suddenly erupted with power and slashed out with his sword, directly killing a demonic sex Heaven Vein expert. Now it was 2 against 2. The demonic sex experts were already powerless. Now that another one had died, they immediately turned around and fled. However, their speed was not as fast as the black-eyed old man. Die, all of you! The black-eyed old man was in a killing frenzy because he knew that he didn't have much time left. He had to kill all of his opponents and then commit suicide. Otherwise, everyone present would die here. Rip, rip. 2 crisp sounds were heard, and the remaining 2 demonic sects Heaven Vein experts also fell one after another. Now, the demon sect was no longer a threat. No, there was still one more. The black-eyed old man glanced around and found that there was another Heaven Vein expert's body that fell. It was his disciple. What? The black-eyed old man was stunned, but he didn't immediately find Yixian's figure. He quickly glanced around and found Yixian at the place where the 3 demonic sects Heaven Vein experts fell. At this time, Yixian had already taken off the 3 people's interspatial rings. Ding! The host has opened the 66th Earth Vein. With the interspatial rings of the 4 Heaven Vein experts, Yixian opened 3 Earth Veins in one go. Not only that, he also quickly swept past the last Heaven Vein expert of Xianxia Palace other than the black-eyed old man. Die! The Heaven Vein expert's Tao Heart Demon Seed technique had also passed, so his strength dropped. He was instantly killed by Yixian. Ding! The host has opened the 67th Earth Vein. Another familiar notification sounded. This scene was beyond the black-eyed old man's expectations. He originally thought that Yixian would be killed by his disciple, but he didn't expect the situation to be reversed. Not only that, Yixian also killed the last Heaven Vein expert of Xianxia Palace. If he waited until the Tao Heart Demon Seed technique's duration passed, there would be no more Heaven Vein experts in Xianxia Palace. Be Astra-starred, I want you dead. The black-eyed old man was furious and shouted at the sky. However, at this moment, the masked Yixian grinned and said, "Senior brother, don't you remember me?" This sentence stunned the black-eyed old man, and he exclaimed, "It's you, senior brother. You must have thought that after I escaped the seal, I would find a place to cultivate and then come back for revenge, right?" Yixian continued. Although he was the one who spoke, he said this sentence according to the Demon Lord's original words. "Humph, I sealed you on Celestial Wolf Island decades ago, and even today, I still haven't sent experts to kill you. Now, you actually delivered yourself to me," the black-eyed old man said coldly. "Senior brother, don't be so hypocritical. For the position of Palace Lord of Xianxia Palace, you actually sneak-attacked me, forcing me to use the last Tao Heart Demon Seed technique and then demonize into a monster that is neither human nor ghost. Today, I've come to take your life." Yixian continued. "I also used the last Tao Heart Demon Seed technique. I'll be demonized soon, but I won't become a monster like you. Junior brother, let's die together." The black-eyed old man shouted and directly rushed at Yixian. This time, he wanted to kill Yixian first, then kill himself. When the demon seed in one's heart grew to a certain extent, it would germinate after the Tao Heart Demon Seed technique's duration was over. Before that, a cultivator actually had 2 options. The first was demonization. This way, he could maintain his physical body, but lose all rationality and become a killing machine. The second was demonization. This was to leave one's physical body and become a monster like the Demon Lord. The black-eyed old man didn't want to choose either. He only wanted to die together. Kill. The 2 began to exchange blows, attacking each other wildly. The black-eyed old man also did his best to protect Xianxia Palace, because he didn't have much time left. Yixian also attacked with all his strength in order to destroy the Demon Lord's time. As long as he killed the black-eyed old man, he could destroy Xianxia Palace and complete the Demon Lord's mission. However, what the 2 didn't notice was that there were only 200 people left on Xianxia Palace's side, while there were still 500 experts on the Demon Sect side. After a while, all the experts of Xianxia Palace would be killed by the experts of the Demon Sect. Chapter 499. Void God Realm blood flowed like a river on the stage, and countless broken limbs were everywhere. The martial artists who were watching the battle also ran far away, because they felt that something big was about to happen. Sure enough, when all the experts from Xianxia Palace were killed by the people from the Demon Sect, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky and stood above the 1,000-corpse arena. As soon as he appeared, Yixian and the dark-eyed old man instantly froze. Both of them couldn't move their bodies. The only thing they could do was blink and open their mouths. Not only them, but even the experts from the Demon Sect and the tens of thousands of spectators who were 10,000 meters away were the same. They couldn't move at all. It was as if the entire world had frozen. What's going on? Why can't I move? I can't move either. My heart is beating so fast. Look, there's another person on the stage. Everyone looked over and saw a white-robed young man who had appeared in the air above the arena out of nowhere. The Killing Luo sect was dressed in black. The Green Ghost Alliance was dressed in green, and the Xianxia Palace was dressed in white. However, the dark-eyed old man was the only one left from the Xianxia Palace. The white-clothed young man held a folding fan in his hand and looked at Yixian in surprise. He muttered to himself, "Oh my, the blood similarity is so high. TSK, TSK, TSK. It seems that he's the illegitimate child of some clan." No one understood his words, and no one knew who he was referring to. However, Yixian understood that the white-clothed young man was talking about him. Thump, thump, thump. Yixian's heart was about to explode. He felt that there was a strange connection between him and the white-clothed young man. Spirit realm? Yixian thought in his heart. This white-clothed young man was able to immobilize tens of thousands of people with just the pressure of his appearance. His strength was definitely not in the spirit realm. No, he's not in the spirit realm. The Demon Lord's voice suddenly rang in Yixian's mind. I've seen a spirit realm expert before, but he didn't give me such a powerful pressure. It was impossible for him to immobilize tens of thousands of people. This white-clothed young man is in the Void God realm. What? Virtual God stage? Yixian's eyes widened. He had seen a spirit stage expert before. It was the middle-aged man who had killed the injured wyvern in the Tang dynasty. Now, however, he actually saw an empty God realm expert. Moreover, the other party's age was similar to his. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was impossible. However, it made sense. Only Nihility God realm experts could use their auras to suppress tens of thousands of people present. Even the black-eyed old man who had opened his heaven meridian was like a statue in the air. At this time, the young man in white suddenly looked at Yixian's right hand and said in shock, "Oh, the sword of the Bahuang, sword god? I know who you are." Who? Yixian widened his eyes. Bahuang sword god. Could it be that he was the master of the Bahuang sword? "Kid, what's your name?" The young man in white asked with a smile. "Who are you?" Yixian asked subconsciously. "Kacha." However, before he could finish his sentence, his mask shattered. Then he felt a pain in his chest and involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood. The young man in white's expression changed and said, "I'm asking for your name." So strong. Yixian was shocked. He knew that the young man in white could kill him with just a thought. Such a person was invincible. "Kid, don't talk nonsense. Even if he doesn't attack, he can kill you in an instant," the Demon Lord quickly reminded. Although Yixian was unwilling and dissatisfied, he would not play around with his life. After silently cursing the young man in white, he said coldly, "Yixian." Hearing this name, the young man in white narrowed his eyes and smiled again. "So it's you. Speaking of which, I can be considered your cousin." Cousin? Yixian's heart trembled. There were only a few people in the Yi family, and he knew all his cousins. However, this young man in white was so strong and recognized the Bahuang sword, so he could only be from Yixian's mother's side. Yixian's current mood was indescribable. He did not expect to meet someone from his mother's family. "Who are you?" Yixian asked again. The young man in white smiled. "Remember, my name is Jiang Tianjin." Jiang Tianjin. Jiang. This name made Yixian realize that his mother's surname was Jiang. However, the young man in white's next word stunned him. "Old man with black eyes, stab him." The young man in white suddenly turned to look at the old man with black eyes. "What?" The old man with black eyes did not dare to interrupt. Now that he heard this, he was stunned. However, he realized that he could move his body. Among the tens of thousands of people in the air, only he and a young man in white could move. Yes, the old man with black eyes did not care about anything else. He directly stabbed his sword at Yixian's head. Holy shit! Yixian's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. What was going on? His cousin was actually trying to kill him? At this moment, he could not move. He could only watch helplessly as the old man's sword came at him. He wanted to dodge, but he could not move. He was already in despair. He never expected to die in such a King place. He was unwilling. However, just as the old man's sword was about to pierce Yi Xian's forehead, the old man's body froze. Yi Xian could feel the temperature of the sword. It was very cold. I told you to stab him, not his head. The young man in white reminded him. This sentence chilled Yi Xian's heart. The young man in white did not want to kill him. Instead, he wanted to torture him. With that said, the old man could move his body again. Following that, he stabbed his sword into Yi Xian's abdomen. Rip! The sound of the sword piercing flesh was very moving. Everyone held their breaths. They even swallowed their saliva carefully. They could not understand what was going on. The young man in white, Jiang Tianjin, did resemble Yi Xian. The former even claimed to be Yi Xian's cousin. However, if they were relatives, why did he ask the old man to stab Yi Xian? Although the old man with black eyes did not understand, he knew that the young man in white was definitely not an ordinary person. If he resisted, he would definitely die. What nice voice. Again. The young man in white nodded with a smile. The old man pulled out his sword and stabbed it again. Rip! Yi Xian frowned. He could still endure this pain. After all, it was only a momentary pain. He would recover soon. Oh, his recovery speed is that fast? The young man in white was somewhat surprised. He saw that Yi Xian's wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not even a scar was left behind. However, when the black-eyed old man pulled the sword out, the wound was unable to heal. Chapter 500. Jiang Tianjin what? The bloodline of the sacred tree of life is being suppressed. A notification rang out in Yi Xian's mind, causing him to be completely stunned. This was the first time he had seen the bloodline of the sacred tree of life being suppressed and unable to function. How could the empty god realm be so powerful? At this moment, Wei Zhentian suddenly leaped out from Yi Xian's artifact space and transformed into a sharp-beaked bird. He directly flew towards a young man in white. Wei Zhentian don't. Yi Xian opened his eyes wide and shouted. There's actually a rock spirit? Not bad, but it's a pity I'm not interested. You must have a deep relationship with it, right? As soon as the white, clothed young man finished speaking, Wei Zhentian's entire body caught on fire and was instantly transformed into ashes. No, not even ashes were left behind. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. Ding! Host pet, Wei Zhentian has died. Wei Zhentian. Yi Xian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he heard the notification. He couldn't help but roar. Wei Zhentian had followed him for so long, he naturally had deep feelings for him. If it wasn't for Wei Zhentian, he would have died several times. However, today he actually witnessed Wei Zhentian being burned to the ground by an unknown flame with his own eyes. He did not even know how the other party did it. Hee, you are angry, but can you kill me with your eyes? The white-robed young man laughed again. As the white-clothed youth spoke, he glanced at the black-eyed old man. The black-eyed old man understood what he meant and began to attack wildly. Furthermore, he avoided hitting his vital points with every strike. In an instant, Yi Xian was covered in blood. F***CK. Yi Xian's expression was extremely ugly. His sacred tree of life bloodline had been suppressed, and he was unable to recover. If he lost too much blood, he would die here. At this moment, he had already cursed the 18 generations of the white-clothed young man's ancestors. If his eyes could kill, the white-clothed young man would have died 1,000 times over. Not bad, not bad. Your expression is very interesting. The young man in white nodded in satisfaction. But at this moment, the black-eyed old man's aura suddenly surged. He had already lost his last bit of reason and was possessed by the devil. In his demonic state, he unsheathed his sword and stabbed towards Yi Xian's heart. Not good. Yi Xian widened his eyes. Why was this dark-eyed old man bewitched at this time? Unfortunately, he still couldn't move. The long sword pierced Yi Xian's chest. Yi Xian was already in despair. He did not know if the white-clothed youth would be able to react in time. No, it should be said that the white-clothed youth would attack. The sword had already pierced Yixian's heart, but it had only pierced a little. He's possessed. The white-clad youth smiled coldly and said, I, Jiang Tianjin, can kill whoever I want. If I want someone to live, no one can be killed. Suddenly, a wave of pressure pressed down on the dark-eyed old man. A moment later, blood began spraying out from his 7 orifices, and he fell from the sky. Dead. The white-robed youth didn't even move a finger. Just his aura alone was enough to kill an expert who had opened 3 heaven veins. His strength was simply too heaven-defying. Everyone looked on in shock. The dark-eyed old man's long sword was still piercing Yixian's chest. Blood was still flowing out. TSK, I wanted to play with you a little longer, but I have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. All right, what's your name again? The white-clothed youth looked at Yixian with a smile, but before Yixian could speak, he continued with a smile. Forget it. I'll forget it later. Just remember my name. I'm called Jiang Tianjin. His voice was still echoing in everyone's ears, but he had already disappeared without a trace. At the same time, everyone present was finally able to move. After the white-clothed youth left, Yixian hurriedly pulled out the long sword in his chest. The blood of the sacred tree of life also healed his injuries. Jiang Tianjin, I, Yixian, swear that I will kill you. Yixian clenched his teeth and roared at the sky. He would definitely avenge this humiliation. Jiang Tianjin, the Jiang family. This time, Yixian was dealt a heavy blow. He had barely broken through to the essence soul realm and had not even opened his heavenly vein. Jiang Tianjin was about the same age as him, but he was already a void god realm expert. The gap between the two was too big. Fortunately, the white-clothed youth didn't want to kill him at this time, so he was able to struggle at death's door. After a while, he quickly rushed down and collected the dark-eyed old man's interspatial ring. Then, he collected the interspatial rings of the experts from the Xianxia Palace. None of the higher-ups from the Xianxia Palace survived, so the Xianxia Palace could only be disbanded. However, there were still a few hundred demon sect disciples. Therefore, Yixian quickly killed his way over. Wei Zhentian was dead, and the white-clothed youth had disappeared. Therefore, Yixian could only vent his anger on these demon sect disciples. At this time, he had already opened 69 earth veins, and was only 3 stages away from the peak. Even if he did not use the Tao Heart Seed demon technique, he could still kill all the demon sect experts. Not good, retreat. The killing Rakshasa sect leader's face darkened. The white-clothed youth had shocked him too much. Even if he had the guts, he would not dare to do anything to Yixian. However, even if he wanted to, he could not do anything to Yixian. In less than half a minute, these hundreds of experts were all dead, and Yixian had opened his 70th earth vein. Then, Yixian directly left the Xianxia Palace. Demon Master, although I did not kill your hatred, he is dead. The Xianxia Palace can be considered to be destroyed. My mission is complete, right? After leaving the Xianxia Palace, Yixian calmed down and asked, Enough, I have avenged my hatred. I can die without regrets. Thank you. The Demon Master thanked sincerely. Remember to fulfill your promise. Yixian said coldly. Although he had completed his mission, the Demon Master was not a human. He might even die together with him. That would be a tragedy for him. I know, the Demon Master replied. You have already used the Tao Heart Seed magic art twice. I estimate that with your current realm, you can only use it once more. That is why I warn you not to use it carelessly. As soon as he finished speaking, traces of black energy seeped out of Yixian's body. After a while, Yixian could no longer feel any trace of demonic energy in his body. Did he self-destruct? Yixian narrowed his eyes. The Demon Master was a human when he was alive. After using the Tao Heart Seed magic art for the last time, he chose to turn into a demon. That was why he still retained his consciousness. Now that the Xianxia Palace was destroyed and he had avenged his hatred, Yixian's realm was much higher than his. He knew that he could not seize Yixian's body, so he committed suicide. Yixian was stunned for a few seconds in the air, then he left. This matter could be considered to have come to an end. However, there was a new source of hatred in his heart. It was that white-clothed youth. At that time, Yi Xian felt like he was an ant that could be crushed by the other party. Chapter 501. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin Woling? The news of Xianxia Palace's annihilation spread quickly. However, what made people curious was that a Void God Realm expert had appeared in a middle-grade territory. This was a rare occurrence. People were speculating whether Yi Xian had any enmity with the white-clothed young man, Jiang Tianjin, for him to do such a thing. However, it wasn't like Yi Xian didn't gain anything this time. Firstly, he learned his mother's surname from Jiang Tianjin. If he wanted to find his father in the future, he only needed to find a powerful force with the surname Jiang. Secondly, the Bahuang sword in his hand was the weapon of the Bahuang sword god. He had heard of the Undying Sword God before. If the Undying Sword God was at the Void God realm, then the Bahuang Sword God should also be at the Void God realm. The Void God weapon is above the supreme grade celestial weapon. This Bahuang sword should be a Void God weapon. I never thought that my father would leave me such a precious weapon. Yi Xian thought in his heart. He had copied the Bahuang sword art and the Bahuang wind formation into the devouring system. However, he could only learn the third level of the Bahuang sword art and the Bahuang wind formation when he reached the Void God realm. Void God realm. Only when I reach the Void God realm can I find Jiang Tianjin and avenge Wei Jintian. Yi Xian was enraged when he thought of Wei Jintian's ashes. At this moment, he couldn't wait to annihilate the entire Jiang family in Tianjua territory. However, this was of no use at all. After all, even if all these Jiang clans were added together, they would not be able to match up to one Xianxia palace. As for Jiang Tianjin, he was an empty God realm expert. He could kill someone with a single thought. Not long after, Yi Xian left Tianjua territory and returned to the lower-grade territories to see if there was any news about Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song. Unfortunately, there was still no news about them. Then, Yi Xian returned to Tianshui continent through the deep-sea underground palace. Now, he could easily break the formation. Sure enough, the two of them did not return to Tianshui continent. What a tragedy. I don't know where that girl went. Yi Xian was helpless. After leaving some cultivation resources, he returned to Blood Cliff continent. He continued to wander around the deep-sea underground palace for 2 months. However, there was still no news about the two of them. Since he couldn't find them, he decided not to search for them for the time being. Yi Xian. He decided to go to a high-grade territory in order to make a breakthrough earlier. He decided to go to a high-grade territory. In the Heaven Absolute territory, the Xianxia Palace was one of the strongest forces. However, they only had experts who had opened 3 heaven meridians. Is Xianxia Palace? Xianxia. Xian, Faging Dragon Xian, was Book Xian translation continent Xian. Ho Xian XN. Xian. The Cyan Cliff region was the weakest of all the high-level territories in the Luosha region. However, this was rather suitable for Yi Xian. The Green Ghost League was located in the Green Cliff region, and the Green Ghost League was a Devil Dao faction. Therefore, the Green Cliff region was not very peaceful. Therefore, Yi Xian chose this place. He returned to the Heaven Absolute territory and set off from there. It took him a few days to reach the Green Rock territory. What's that? Not long after Yi Xian entered the Green Rock territory, he saw a pillar of fire in the distance that pierced through the clouds. This was a phenomenon of the heavens and earth. It was definitely the birth of some kind of treasure. A good sign. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He had just arrived and saw this scene. This meant that his luck was not bad. Immediately, he dashed toward the fire pillar. As he got closer, the fire pillar grew bigger and bigger, and the temperature rose higher and higher. When he was only 10,000 meters away from the fire pillar, he realized that there was already a large number of warriors here. These warriors were in groups of 2 or 3, while others were in groups of 7 or 8. There were even large factions leading dozens of people in the air. Yi Xian sensed that there were many Heaven Vein realm experts around. The weakest were at the peak of the Earth Vein realm, while the stronger ones had already opened 10 Earth Veins. A high-ranked territory was indeed a high-ranked territory. Hundreds of Heaven Vein realm experts had appeared all of a sudden. Hey, brother, do you want a fire avoidance pearl? Suddenly, a voice entered Yi Xian's ears. Yi Xian turned his head and saw a small-eyed youth running toward him. Yi Xian gripped the Bahuang sword tightly and looked at him with fear. When he was outside, even if it was a peerless beauty who rushed over, he still had to be vigilant. "What's a fire avoidance pearl?" asked Yi Xian. The young man stopped a few meters in front of Yi Xian, then took out a fiery red bead and said, "If this blazing catacombs is opened and you wear the fire avoidance bead on your body, it can slow down the consumption of your true energy." Oh, Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. The scorching cave, was it referring to the area under this pillar of fire? Seeing the expression on Yi Xian's face, the small-eyed youth asked in surprise, "Could it be that you don't know about this scorching cave?" "I just arrived," Yi Xian answered honestly. "How about this? You buy a fire avoidance pearl, and I'll tell you about this scorching cave." "How about it?" asked the small-eyed youth sneakily. "Okay." Yi Xian didn't waste any more words and nodded. With his current wealth, buying a treasure wasn't a problem. After the transaction, the small-eyed youth smiled and said, "This scorching cave only appeared yesterday. This pillar of fire is actually a sign that there's a fire spirit under this scorching cave." Fire spirit. Hearing this name, Yi Xian's eyebrows rose. The dead Wei Jintian was a rock spirit, and now there was a fire spirit. That's right. Do you know about a fire spirit? If you sign a contract with a fire spirit, then your affinity with the fire attribute will greatly increase. The small-eyed youth nodded. Affinity with the fire attribute? Yi Xian was stunned. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. "Brother, why don't you know anything?" The small-eyed youth rolled his eyes and said, "Everyone is born with at least one type of affinity, also known as the spirit root. This isn't very useful for the soul essence stage, but it's the key to one's strength when one reaches the spirit stage. If you sign a contract with a fire spirit, then your affinity with the fire attribute will at least increase to the epic level. It's even possible for it to soar to the legendary level." Epic legendary? Yi Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. He remembered the talent that the old man had tested for him during the entrance exam of the Soaring Heaven Mansion. Outstanding. Chapter 502. Blazing Cave. What's the use of increasing affinity? Yi Xian asked again. If your affinity with the fire attribute increases, then your cultivation talent will also increase slightly. The most important thing is that it can increase your perception and power of fire attribute martial arts, which will make your cultivation progress faster. If it's the rock spirit, then it will increase your perception and power of earth attribute martial arts, explained the small-eyed young man. Perception and power. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He had signed a contract with the rock spirit, which meant that his earth attribute was at least at the epic rank. Then what if the fire spirit dies? Yi Xian asked with a frown. It won't affect the martial artist. After signing a contract with a fire spirit, the martial artist's affinity will increase. Even if the fire spirit is killed, the affinity won't decrease. The small-eyed youth shook his head. Yi Xian nodded silently. Although he said so, he still felt that it was better for Wei Jintian to be alive. He paused and continued asking, "Is it possible to sign a contract with both the fire spirit and the rock spirit at the same time?" The small-eyed youth shook his head. "That's even more impossible. You can only sign a contract with one elemental spirit. I've never heard of anyone signing two at the same time. Moreover, the fire spirit is extremely precious. Even if you don't use it and give it to someone else, you won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. With so many people, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to get it." Yi Xian turned his head and looked at the people around him. There were more than 1,000 people here, and they had all gathered in a single day. If the news spread, there would be even more experts here. That's right. However, a single fire spirit is equivalent to the wealth of everyone here combined. Moreover, there are many good things in the blazing cave, so these people aren't just gathering here for the fire spirit. The small-eyed youth said. When will the blazing cave open? Yi Xian was also interested in the fire spirit. Although the fire spirit was useless to him, he could give it to someone who needed it. Hearing this, The small-eyed youth turned his head and pointed at the volcano in front of them. That fire pillar is thinning. After a while, we can enter the volcano from the entrance. Yixian took a look and realized that the pillar of fire was still some distance away from the crater. However, these people did not dare to rush in recklessly. Who knew if the pillar of fire would suddenly grow bigger? Intuition told Yixian that the scorching catacombs were very dangerous, so he had to be careful. As for the fire spirit, he didn't have much hope. He just wanted to go down and gain some experience. Brother, this scorching catacombs is very dangerous, and you're the first batch to enter. There are many unknown dangers, so I think it's better for you to follow behind the others and let them explore. Of course, the disadvantage of doing so is that all the good things on the road will be taken away. The small-eyed youth saw that Yixian was pleasing to the eye, so he reminded him. Thank you for the reminder. Yixian nodded. Goodbye. The small-eyed young man smiled and continued to promote his fire avoidance pearl. Yixian put away the fire avoidance pearl and flew into the sky, waiting quietly. The fire pillar was shrinking bit by bit. The number of people was also increasing. Some martial artists who were not afraid of death directly flew to the newly formed volcano, probed it, and found that it was almost there. Let's go. These people exchanged glances with their companions, then flew directly into the volcano and towards the bottom. The fire spirit lived in a scorching place, so it must be deep underground. Seeing that some people had gone down, the others also followed. Yixian was not in a hurry. He was not interested in the fire spirit anyway. He was waiting for the others to go in and explore. If he was the first batch to go in and found some heaven and earth treasure first, it would definitely lead to a huge battle. He loved to be the fisherman. The martial artists went down one after another, and soon, more than 500 people had left. Yixian glanced around and found that there were still many Heaven Vein experts. It seemed that they were also planning to let these people go in and explore. The fire pillar was still shrinking. At this time, they were already 100 meters away from the mouth of the volcano, so the danger was much lower. After waiting for most of the people to leave, Yixian also flew over. The fire pillar continued to soar into the sky, and the temperature was extremely high. Yixian was drenched in sweat from the steam. He took out a bottle of precious medicine and drank a mouthful, then rushed into the mouth of the volcano. There was only one way out of the mouth of the volcano, and that was to go down. Yixian quickly descended, and along the way, he heard the roars of many saint beasts. After about 5 minutes of descending, he was tens of thousands of meters underground. Then, he saw a scorching hot magma. At the same time, Yixian also saw a few passageways. There seems to be something in the magma. Yixian narrowed his eyes because he saw that there were large non-human footprints at the entrances of the passageways. He took out a white bone battle puppet from the devouring space and threw it at the entrance. Before the white bone battle puppet landed, a huge figure rushed out of the magma and swallowed the white bone battle puppet in one gulp. Giant lava lizard. Yixian recognized this saint beast. It was a giant lava lizard that was comparable to a heavenly pulse expert. After this giant lava lizard swallowed the white bone battle puppet, it dove back into the magma, hiding its strength and reputation. If an ordinary person wanted to go in, they would be attacked by the giant lava lizard first. If it was light, they would have their arms and legs broken. If it was heavy, they would be dragged into the magma and melted into nothing. The temperature of the magma in this scorching cave was definitely higher than that of an ordinary volcano. Yixian estimated that if he put his hand in, it would be instantly burned into nothingness. Therefore, he did not want to kill the giant lava lizard. His goal was only to enter one of the passageways. Then, he took out a few more white bone battle puppets and threw them over. As expected, 2 more giant lava lizards jumped out. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yixian quickly rushed into the passageway. However, he did not expect that there would be a giant lava lizard waiting for him at a corner of the passageway. I was too lazy to kill you in the magma. Since you came out yourself, I'll turn you into my experience points. Yixian held the 8 Desolations sword tightly and used the prime cleared demon slaying slash in front of him. The giant lava lizard was huge and its defense was not bad. The prime clear demon slaying slash could only barely break through its defense. The giant lava lizard opened its bloody mouth and spat out a fireball at Yixian. However, Yixian dodged it easily. The giant lava lizard is a distant relative of the earth dragon. I wonder if the dragon-slaying Sword of Desolation will be effective. Yixian thought for a moment and rushed over with the dragon-slaying Sword of Desolation. His speed was not something that the clumsy giant lava lizard could compare to. When he got close to the giant lava lizard, it could not even catch a shadow. Dragon-slaying Sword of Desolation, Dragon's Judgment. Chapter 503. Terrifying heat wave impact, as expected. As long as there is a trace of dragon blood in the body, the dragon-slaying Sword of 8 Desolation will be effective. Yixian waited until the lava lizard was completely dead before keeping its corpse and devouring it. A sacred beast that was comparable to a heavenly vein expert was worth a lot of experience points to Yixian. After devouring it, Yixian nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that unlocking the heavenly vein was just around the corner. Then, he continued to move forward along the passage. The blazing cave was very hot. If a spirit realm martial artist came in, they would not be able to withstand the heat and would be burned to ashes. Even if it was a soul essence realm martial artist, they were constantly consuming their true qi. However, for Yixian, who had the sacred tree of life's bloodline, this consumption would be instantly recovered. Hence, the fire avoidance pearl was useless to him. He kept the fire avoidance pearl and continued forward. After walking for a while, he began to see corpses. There were human corpses and lava lizards' corpses. It seemed that a battle had broken out here. The rest of the people fought as they walked, and no one came to collect the corpses. This was a good thing for Yixian. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from the tunnel. Yixian frowned. It seemed that someone was fighting while heading in his direction. The tunnel was quite big, and it was about 100 meters tall. Yixian hid in a corner. He did not want to be caught in the crossfire, unless the person coming was not strong enough. TSK, stay here. Fire Dragon Grass is not something that Earth Vein martial artists like you can get their hands on. With this Fire Dragon Grass, I can exchange it for some cultivation resources and unlock my 5th heavenly vein. Soon, a group of people appeared in front of Yixian. There were 2 groups of people. There was only one person running in front, and 5 people chasing behind him. Yixian estimated that the strongest among them was around 5 heavenly veins. They were relatively weak. Hence, he dashed forward. Prime Clarity, Sword Technique. Yixian used his special skill and killed the person in front of him. Then, he took his yin and yang ring. How dare you come out halfway? You're courting death. In an instant, Yixian became a thorn in the eyes of these 5 people. However, after Yixian devoured the contents of the interspatial ring, his cultivation level suddenly skyrocketed. Ding! Host has unlocked the 1st heavenly meridian. The Fire Dragon Grass was a precious heavenly treasure that was 2 to 3 times more valuable than the other items in the interspatial ring. It allowed Yixian, who had opened 70 earth veins, to open 71st, 72nd earth veins, and the 1st heavenly vein. The current Yixian could be considered to have stepped into the Heaven Meridian realm. With his cultivation level, killing the other 5 was extremely easy. Rip, rip, rip. 5 crisp sounds rang out in a row as 5 heads fell to the ground. All 5 of their universe rings also fell into Yixian's hands. Ding! Host has unlocked the 2nd heavenly meridian. Yixian's cultivation level rose again. Now, his strength was considered to be at the top of the group of martial artists who had entered the Scorching Catacombs. This fire spirit is worth a try. If I can get it, I can exchange it for a lot of heavenly treasures. Yixian thought to himself. As for how much he could exchange for, it would depend on the quality of the fire spirit. Some fire spirits could help raise a martial artist's fire affinity to the upper legendary level, while others could only raise it to the lower epic level. There was a huge difference between the two. In the Scorching Catacombs, sacred beasts like the giant lava lizard were not the only ones. There were others as well. However, to Yixian, they were no longer a threat. Yixian advanced along the passageway, and encountered many threats. In addition, there were also many heavenly treasures. He gained quite a lot. At this moment, rumble. Suddenly, a loud sound rang out in the passageway. Yixian paused and felt the temperature rise in front of him. He was so frightened that Yixian quickly retreated. Boom! A wave of heat assaulted him. Its speed was much faster than Yixian's, and it directly drowned him. So hot! Yixian widened his eyes. This wave of heat burned his clothes, and even his skin began to melt. A layer of skin fell off with a touch, and blood flowed. He was instantly turned into a pile of flesh. Fortunately, he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life, which healed his wounds. Very soon, this wave of heat passed. Fortunately, I have already opened my heavenly veins and the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. Otherwise, this wave of heat would have burned my bones out. Yixian shuddered. Just now, he did not even open his eyes. His eyelids were almost melted. If even he, an expert who had opened 2 heavenly veins, was reduced to this state, then those martial artists with earth veins would not be able to survive. Now, Yixian understood that the danger in the scorching catacombs was not the sacred beasts, but the heat waves. Even if someone could survive the first wave of heat, they would not be able to withstand more than a few waves. Moreover, their true chi would be greatly depleted. He did not know how much strength they would have left when they found the fire spirit. However, this kind of environment was a disguised form of improvement for Yixian. Immediately, he quickened his pace. As expected, there were many earth veins martial artists who had died in this wave of heat. The ground was littered with corpses. These people had been burned beyond recognition. Some of them even had their heads melted. They had died horrible deaths. Yixian walked over, picked up their weapons and interspatial rings, and devoured them. These earth veins martial artists could not withstand the first wave of heat, let alone the second and third. Yixian estimated that after 1 or 2 more waves of heat, these earth veins martial artists would all die. He quickened his pace again and began to catch up with the main group in front. Along the way, there were countless corpses like this. Hence, they all benefited Yixian, allowing his strength to continuously improve. Soon, the tunnel came to an end. Yixian remembered that there were a total of 9 tunnels at the entrance of the volcano. However, the place he came out of had 10. Moreover, there were already hundreds of experts here. All of them were heavenly veins, and the weakest had opened 5 heavenly veins. At the same time, these people were gathered on both sides of the tunnel, sticking close to the wall. What's going on? Yixian narrowed his eyes. He saw that the tunnel in the middle of this group was constantly spewing out hot air. It seemed that the heat wave had come from there. He looked around and realized that these heavenly veins martial artists were more or less injured. Some were caused by battle, while others were caused by the heat wave. At this moment, the tunnel rumbled violently again. Everyone immediately spewed out their true chi to defend themselves. It's coming again. Everyone be careful. Someone shouted with good intentions. Hearing this, Yixian's body trembled. He hurriedly rushed to the side of a wall and summoned the Octotera shield to protect his vitals. Chapter 504. Dragon Slayer Boom. A scorching aura erupted from the 10th tunnel. The temperature was even higher than before, and it instantly flooded the entire area. Then it rushed out from the other 9 tunnels. F*CK. Yixian gritted his teeth. His realm was the weakest among all of them. Although he still had the Bahuang sword, it could only amplify his strength when he was attacking. This wave of heat instantly burned a few of the weaker people into ashes. Although Yixian's chi strength and the yuan chi of heaven and earth that he could use were not much, he was lucky that he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life, so he could constantly heal his injuries. Otherwise, he would have died in this wave of heat. The wave of heat lasted for 3 whole seconds. Originally, there were hundreds of Heaven Vein Realm experts, but now, there were only 80 people left. After 3 seconds, the people around the dead quickly put away their interspatial rings. Then someone shouted, "Charge!" Someone took the lead and rushed into the 10th tunnel. The others did the same. Yixian was a little puzzled. He had just arrived and had not even figured out what was going on. But now he had to go in. Out of caution, he was the last one to go in. In the 10th tunnel, the smell of blood was very strong. It was all left behind by the group of warriors in front. They did not have time to heal their injuries. Only Yixian was unscathed. However, just as Yixian rushed into the 10th tunnel, there was suddenly a loud sound. The third wave of heat. Yixian frowned and prepared to use the Bahuang shield to protect his vitals. However, when he listened carefully, he realized that it was not the sound of a heat wave. It was a dragon's roar. I see. Yixian immediately understood. There was probably a flying dragon or a sky dragon at the end of this tunnel. Since it was not a heat wave, everyone was relieved and rushed over at full speed. After Yixian came out of the tunnel, he arrived in a sea of lava. At the end of this lava sea, there was indeed a fiery red flying dragon. Not only that, but there were also many giant lava lizards in this sea of lava. If someone flew over, these giant lava lizards would attack them. At this time, quite a few experts had already flown into the sea of lava and were heading towards the wyverns. The lava lizards below also began to attack the Heaven Vein Realm experts. However, the lava lizard's strength wasn't very strong, and it wasn't much of a threat to these Heaven Vein Realm experts. Look, Huling. Suddenly, a petite figure appeared on the shoulder of the flying dragon at the end of the magma sea. This petite voice belonged to a palm-sized fire seed. Like the rock spirit, it had arms and legs and a pair of bright eyes. This was the fire spirit. The Great Thousand World is indeed mysterious. A small fire seed actually has hands and feet. It seems that this flaming wyvern is the guardian of this fire spirit. Yixian thought to himself. The flaming wyvern was strong enough to fight against experts with 10 opened heaven meridians. Now that it had the fire spirit, it was strong enough to fight against so many experts. Yixian also noticed this, so he didn't immediately join in the battle. So many people rushed over because of the fire spirit. However, there was only one fire spirit, and there were still dozens of people alive. Therefore, even if the flaming wyvern was killed, a huge battle would break out. Yixian stuck close to the wall and slowly approached. At this time, the dozens of Heaven Vein Realm experts had already begun to attack the flaming wyvern. Roar! The flaming wyvern began to spit out flames crazily. A few people who couldn't dodge in time were directly turned into ashes. The temperature of this dragon breath was much higher than the second wave of heat. Even the strongest experts didn't dare to take it head-on. What a pity for those interspatial rings. Yixian was helpless. He looked around and found more than 10 people who had the same idea as him. These cultivators were waiting for the humans to kill the flaming wyvern and then reap the benefits. After all, there was only one way out. However, what surprised them was that the dragon-slaying team that rushed over was actually defeated by this flaming wyvern. In less than 10 seconds, more than 10 people died, and the flaming wyvern did not have many injuries on its body. At this time, the surrounding people couldn't watch anymore. They all rushed up to help. If the team in front of them was wiped out, they wouldn't be able to kill the flaming wyvern. Yixian also hesitated for a moment. Then, he took out his dragon-slaying sword and charged over. Dragon-slaying sword, Dragon's Judgment. Yixian entered the battle and directly threw out a dragon's judgment that dealt great damage to dragons. Kacha! The dragon's judgment landed on the flaming wyvern, immediately splitting its skin and flesh. The damage was much higher than that of an expert with 10 open heaven veins. So strong, everyone's heart trembled. They didn't expect such a powerful expert to be here. Originally, the dragon-slaying team was a little weak. However, with Yixian's participation, the situation was reversed. The flaming wyvern was beaten until it roared continuously. Dragon's Judgment! Dragon's Judgment! Dragon's Judgment! Yixian attacked crazily. In less than 5 rounds, the flaming wyvern was covered in wounds. The others focused their attacks on these wounds. Soon, the flaming wyvern was at the end of its rope. The fire spirit on the flaming wyvern's shoulder saw that the situation wasn't good. It immediately fled, preparing to dive into the lava. Want to run? A cultivator near the fire spirit swept over and grabbed the fire spirit in his hand. However, the fire spirit didn't stay in his hand for more than a second. His head was chopped off, and the fire spirit was transferred to another person. This was a spark that ignited the atmosphere in an instant. Fire spirit, that's mine. Scram, the fire spirit belongs to my Chun family. All members of the Hu family, heed my order. Give up attacking and snatch it. A great battle royale unfolded. Sigh, Yixian shook his head. The greed of human nature showed once again. However, he didn't join the battle to snatch the fire spirit. Instead, he continued to attack the flaming wyvern. In any case, there was only one way to go. He would chase after someone else when they ran away. Besides him, there were still a few people helping to kill the flaming wyvern. Yixian secretly praised these people for their integrity. Dragon's slaying sword of the Eight Desolation, Dragon's Judgment. Yixian suddenly rushed to the back of the flaming wyvern. Then, he slashed down and finally killed the flaming wyvern. The flaming wyvern was killed, but it wasn't completely dead yet. It was estimated that it would fall into the lava soon, so he hurriedly held on to its corpse. Die! At this time, the people who helped him kill the flaming wyvern began to attack him. Chapter 505. All of them were dead. Damn it! None of you are good. Yixian cursed, using the fiery wyvern's body to block the attacks. Only when the wyvern was completely dead did he put it into his interspatial ring. Ding! The host has unlocked the third heavenly meridian. A familiar notification sounded in Yixian's ears. His lips curled up. Now is the time for him to show off. All of you die. Yixian stepped into the air, charging toward them. These people were all above 5 heavenly meridians, but they didn't have a supreme grade heavenly martial art. They were much slower than Yixian. In less than 5 seconds, Yixian had killed all of them and unlocked another heavenly meridian. This was his 4th. After Yixian killed all of them, he turned around and saw that the battle on the other side had stopped. Everyone, there's only one fire spirit. If we continue fighting, both sides will suffer. Let's discuss a countermeasure, an old man called out. An old man shouted. On his withered right hand was the fire spirit that everyone wanted. Behind him stood more than 10 martial artists. They were probably experts from the same faction as him. I know you. You're Hu Bawan from the Hu clan. Someone recognized him. That's right, I'm Hu Bawan. The old man nodded. Life is precious. It's not worth it to fight to the death for a single fire spirit. So I hope everyone can give up and give the fire spirit to the Hu clan. After this, I, Hu Bawan, will reward you handsomely. If an ordinary person heard this, they would think the old man was a fool. Who would care so much after this? However, many of the people present had heard of Hu Bawan before. The reason his name was so widespread was because he made friends everywhere and was a man of his word. After hearing Hu Bawan's words, someone immediately said, All right, I'll give up on the fire spirit. He wasn't strong, and he had obtained many treasures along the way. There was no need to fight to the death for a single fire spirit. I give up too. Me too. Immediately, many people gave up. However, there was another great power here. This was another family, the He family, a power that could contend against the Hu family. The middle-aged man leading the He clan snorted, Hu Bawan, although this fire spirit is of the lowest quality, its value isn't something your Hu clan can swallow. I know that your strength is not superior to ours, so we can work together and share this fire spirit equally, said Hu Bawan. Cooperation. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at the people around him. There were many more people on Hu Bawan's side. If a fight broke out, they might not necessarily lose, but they would definitely suffer heavy casualties. All right, I agree. The middle-aged man nodded. Since it's like this, then let's head to South Peace City together. Leave the fire spirit with me, for now. Hu Bawan took out an exquisite cage and put the fire spirit inside before putting it away in his interspatial ring. Elemental spirits, such as the rock spirit and the fire spirit, were all strange beasts. They were very special, so they could be stored in the Cosmos Ring. Now, the two sides had reached an agreement. They would go to the city together to get the fire spirit, then split the loot equally and give some benefits to the others. The total number of people on both sides was more than half, so no one had any objections. However, at this moment, bam, suddenly, a loud sound rang out as a person fell from the sky. Yixian focused his eyes and saw that the person's chest had been blown apart. There was no sign of life. Did someone attack again? Yixian thought to himself. The person had been standing there silently just now, so no one had noticed who had attacked. But in the next moment, the loud sound rang out again, and this time it was continuous. In Yixian's vision, 5 people fell from the sky, then fell into the sea of lava and were swallowed by the lava lizards below. Who's ambushing us? Hubawan turned to look, but couldn't find the culprit. Bam! Suddenly, a loud sound came from behind him. Damn it, kill them! Hubawan roared, thinking that someone was ambushing them. The middle-aged man from the He family's eyes suddenly lit up, and he attacked again. A great battle broke out again. Although Yixian didn't know how these people died, he joined the battle anyway. These people's interspatial rings were experience points to him. 60 people, 50, 40, 30. In a few seconds, the number of people had been reduced to less than 20. Among them, Yixian killed more than a dozen people and looted many things. Ding! The host has unlocked the 5th heavenly meridian. A notification rang out. But at this moment, bam! A loud sound rang out in Yixian's ears. He saw the person in front of him suddenly explode in front of him. Not only that, but even the people around him were the same. Apart from him, everyone else exploded. Now he understood. The fire-avoiding pearl. It was the fire-avoiding pearl. He saw that those people were all wearing the fire-avoiding pearl. It was the explosion of the pearl that killed them all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yixian quickly rushed over and took off Hubawan's universe ring. Then, he fished up a few people's universe rings. Plop! Plop! Corpses fell from the sky and fell into the lava. Yixian devoured everything in the rings and opened his 6th heavenly meridian. But then, he realized that not everyone was dead. 3 people were still floating in the air, looking at him. He recognized one of them. It was the small-eyed young man who gave him the fire-avoiding pearl. It was Yixian didn't notice it earlier, but when he saw the sly smile on the small-eyed young man's face, he said coldly, "Even a fool could guess that the explosion of the fire-avoiding pearl was the work of the small-eyed young man." But what Yixian didn't expect was that the small-eyed young man and his accomplices were hiding their strength. All 3 of them had unlocked at least 10 heavenly meridians. TSK. I didn't expect you to keep the fire-avoiding pearl in your interspatial ring. The small-eyed young man laughed sinisterly. He had meticulously developed the fire-avoiding pearl, but he didn't expect Yixian to not use it. After all, he didn't know that Yixian had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. He didn't even take it out when the second heat wave hit Yixian. What a good plan. Even I didn't see anything fishy about the fire-avoiding pearl. No wonder it was so cheap. Yixian gripped the Bahuang sword tightly and looked coldly at the 3 people. In that case, hand over your interspatial ring and we may spare your life, the small-eyed young man said with a smile. His gaze fell on Yixian's interspatial ring. Sure. Chapter 506. Translator. Nioibo, Studio Editor. Nioibo, Studio in City. However, the interspatial ring was not what the small-eyed young man had expected. It only flew 3 meters forward before falling to the ground. There was rolling lava below. If the interspatial ring fell in, it would definitely melt. At that time, the items in the interspatial ring would disappear. Damn it! Kill him! The small-eyed young man cursed and rushed toward the interspatial ring. He was determined to catch it before it fell into the lava. He was quite fast. He estimated that he would be able to catch it. However, at this moment, splash! Suddenly, a huge figure rushed out of the lava and caught the small-eyed young man off guard. It swallowed the interspatial ring in one gulp. You're courting death. The small-eyed young man increased his speed and cut open the lava lizard's stomach in an instant. The interspatial ring was in his hands. The small-eyed young man heaved a sigh of relief. He had spent so much effort to come up with this plan and had even given up the interspatial rings of many people. It would be a great loss if he still did not get the fire spirit. However, his face darkened in the next moment because there was nothing in the interspatial ring. It was empty. He turned his head in shock and saw two corpses falling from the sky into the lava. Dead. What? The small-eyed young man's eyes widened. His two companions had also opened 12 heaven veins. How could they be killed so easily? Hee, do you think you're the only one who hid your strength? Yixian grinned. He had not hidden his strength. He had just broken through. He was just bluffing. How could he not show off when he was outside? I'll kill you. The small-eyed young man rushed toward Yixian in exasperation. He had opened 13 heaven veins and was stronger than the other two. However, in the eyes of Yixian, who had already opened 6 heavenly veins, his strength wasn't worth mentioning. Die! Yixian increased his speed and killed the small-eyed young man in an instant. Against such an enemy, Yixian would not use the Dao Heart Seed Demon technique. After the death of the small-eyed youth, his interspatial ring fell into the hands of Yixian. With this interspatial ring, Yixian opened his 7th heavenly meridian. If I can get this fire spirit, I should be able to open at least 15 heaven veins. At that time, I can go and exchange it for a heaven-tier martial art. Yixian planned in his heart. He had forgotten to ask before, so he didn't know what quality this fire spirit was, so he could only bring it to the city for others to identify. While he was at it, he also wanted to find out what grade the Heaven's Resentment Saber technique was among the top grade heaven-level martial arts. Immediately, he left. Previously, he had come out from one of the passages, so there were still 8 passages that he hadn't walked through yet. There must be more universe rings in there, so he went around the 8 passages again. During this time, he encountered a few cultivators who didn't know their place and killed them one by one. However, after he left the volcano, he bumped into a group of martial artists. Needless to say, these people were waiting at the mouth of the volcano. They wanted to be the fishermen. Yixian looked around. There were only about 30 people here, but he could sense several powerful auras. He was afraid that they had already opened at least 15 heaven veins. There are quite a few experts here. Yixian frowned. Due to the huge difference in their cultivation levels, he couldn't gauge the strength of these people. Kid, hand over your interspatial ring. Suddenly, one of the people shouted. Sure enough, it was just as Yixian had expected. In fact, he could directly use the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique to fight these people, but the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique would expand the Demon Seed. With his current cultivation level, he could only use it once or twice, so it was very precious. Therefore, he decided to forget about it and admit defeat first. Big brother, please spare my life. Yixian bitterly took off the interspatial ring he was using as a disguise and handed it over. The martial artist sensed that Yixian didn't have any other interspatial rings on him. Then, he took Yixian's interspatial ring and left. The group of people felt that Yixian wasn't strong, so they were too lazy to make a move and allowed him to leave. Then, Yixian turned around and left. In his heart, the wealth of these people was far less than a single use of the Dao Heart Demon Seed technique. Now that the fire spirit was in his hands, he had to find a bigger city and auction it off. He had a map in his hand, and the closest city to him was a city called Anan City. It was said that the city lord was an expert at the peak of the Heaven Veins realm and was only a step away from the spirit stage. That Hubawan also mentioned Anan City. I'll go take a look and see if it's fair, Yixian thought to himself. The fire spirit was very valuable. He was afraid that he would be like the city lord of 10,000 Bones City, who acted one way and did another behind his back. He had only opened 7 heaven veins, which was nothing in this high-ranked territory. If an expert targeted him, he would be in trouble. Therefore, he had to be cautious. He spent half a day to rush to Anan City. Then he spent some time to inquire about the situation in Anan City. It's said that the auction house is opened by the city lord. It's honest, and there hasn't been any cases of robbery, Yixian thought to himself. However, he still felt that he had to be careful, so he took out some things first. He walked into the largest auction house in South P City, and then he casually took out some martial techniques. The attendant of the auction house took a look and noticed a few that he hadn't seen before, so he spent some top-grade soul condensation stones to purchase them. Do you have any peak grade heaven rank martial arts here? Yixian asked. The attendant nodded and said, yes, but the worst one costs 200,000 peak grade soul condensing stones. 200,000 peak grade soul condensing stones. Yixian narrowed his eyes. He only paid 20,000 for a few high-grade heaven rank martial arts. However, he still had a lot of ores and high-grade heaven rank artifacts in his Devourer space. Although Wei Zhentian was dead, he didn't change his habit of leaving these things behind after a battle. Immediately, he took out all of these things. The attendant was stunned. The things Yixian took out were worth at least 100,000 peak grade soul condensing stones. Then he did an inventory check. Sir, these things are worth 230,000 peak grade soul condensing stones, replied the attendant. Only 230,000? Including the 20,000 from before, it's only 250,000. It's only enough to buy the lowest peak grade heaven rank martial arts. Yixian frowned and asked, do you have a Heaven's Resentment saber technique here? Heaven's Resentment saber technique? The attendant was stunned, and then he nodded. Yes, it's worth 1,000,000 peak grade soul condensing stones. Looks like this martial arts isn't bad. However, the price of a 90% Heaven's Resentment saber technique would probably be a few times higher. Yixian pondered for a moment in his heart and said, how much would a 90% Heaven's Resentment saber technique bloodline seed cost? What? Chapter 507. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Consecutive Breakthroughs. The Heaven's Resentment Blade technique was considered a martial art that was difficult to cultivate. It was extremely powerful. Even a talented person would need at least 10 years to cultivate the Heaven's Resentment Blade technique to 90% mastery. Some might even need 20 or 30 years. A single martial art seed could be refined within 1 or 2 years, even if it was a supreme grade heaven tier martial art. In other words, it could save a lot of time. Sir, you want to? The attendant asked in shock. That's right. Yixian nodded. Please wait for a moment, sir. I'll go and ask. After saying that, the waiter left immediately. Not long after, he returned with a number. 5,000,000 supreme grade condensing soul stones. This price also gave Yixian a fright. The price actually increased by 5 times. 5,000,000 supreme grade condensing soul stones was indeed a lot, but time was more precious to an expert. If the Heaven's Resentment Blade technique was at full mastery, the price would be several times higher. Yixian made up his mind. Very quickly, the attendant brought over 5,000,000 top-grade soul condensation stones. As for Yixian, he handed over the bloodline seed that the little vengeful spirit gave him to the attendant. Ding! The host has opened the 8th heavenly meridian. Ding! The host has opened the 9th heavenly meridian. Ding! The host has opened the 14th heavenly meridian. Ding! The host has opened the 15th heavenly meridian. Yixian swallowed 4,000,000 supreme grade condensing soul stones on the spot. His cultivation level skyrocketed. The attendant was shocked, but he soon realized that Yixian had been hiding his true strength. How could he have broken through so much at once? Now that he had the cultivation level, he still needed 2 martial arts, a sword technique and a movement technique. He spent the last 1,000,000 supreme grade condensing soul stones on the 2 martial arts and a book on elemental spirits. The 2 martial arts were called Earth-Splitting Sword and Dragon War Stomp. They were both supreme grade heaven tier martial arts, and they were both of the Earth attribute. He hadn't tested his talent yet, but he estimated that his affinity with the Earth element had definitely reached the epic level, so it would be better for him to use the Earth element martial arts. After leaving the auction house, Yixian directly stayed in South Peace City to cultivate his sword technique and movement technique. At the same time, he also understood that the fire spirit he caught was only an elemental spirit of the lowest level. However, Yixian estimated that its price was at least equivalent to 10 or even 100 martial art seeds of the Heaven's Resentment Blade technique. He really wanted to throw it away, but he remembered that such a large number might cause trouble. Moreover, Saiju Song had the highest fire affinity, so he wanted to leave it for Saiju Song. Most importantly, South Peace City might not be able to take it all. In the following days, he cultivated the earth-shattering sword and dragon war stomp that he had just obtained in southern Peace City. Although they were at the bottom of the heaven-tier martial arts, they were still much better than the Prime Clarity Sword Art and Prime Clarity Devil Stomping Steps. With this earth-shattering sword and battle dragon stomp, my strength on land is at least twice that of in the air. In a residence in South Peace City, Yixian's eyes couldn't help but emit 2 rays of light. He had cultivated in South Peace City for over 10 days and had finally cultivated the earth-shattering sword and battle dragon stomp to 60% mastery. Because he had yet to break through to the spirit realm, he was unable to cultivate these 2 martial arts to 70% mastery. However, his strength had at least doubled compared to before. The earth-shattering sword was a very special martial art. Even if Yixian slashed towards the ground, the slash would still travel underground and appear under the enemy's feet. It was impossible to guard against. As for the battle dragon stomp, every step would resonate with the earth. With Yixian's current realm, a casual stomp from him would probably be able to cause a concussion from a martial artist at the peak of the earth vein line realm. With these 2 martial arts, Yixian's strength on land was extremely powerful. However, the earth-shattering sword and battle dragon stomp weren't very popular. This was because there were very few people with earth attribute physiques. If one's affinity wasn't high, it would be very difficult to cultivate them. Therefore, Yixian had benefited. It's about time. I should find a place to train and test the effects, Yixian thought in his heart. Although the 2 martial arts had been cultivated to 60% mastery, the martial arts still needed to be put into practice. However, at this moment, an uproar suddenly broke out in South Peace City. The 100 Ghost Elder. The 100 Ghost Elder is here. What? Where? Doesn't the 100 Ghost Elder live in the 100 Ghost Mountain? He doesn't interfere with the South Peace City Lord. Why did he come to South Peace City today? He couldn't be looking for a fight with the City Lord, right? Let's go. The 100 Ghost Elders' ghost spirits are extremely ferocious. Yixian could hear the discussions of many people from far away. The 100 Ghost Elder. Just by hearing this name, one could tell that he was from the evil path. Could he be here to attack the city? Yixian thought like this in his heart as he tried to find the 100 Ghost Elders' tracks. Meanwhile, a voice suddenly resounded in the sky like a thunderclap. 100 Ghost Elder, what you come here for? A middle-aged man flashed into the sky and was reflected in Yixian's eyes. Following the gaze of this figure, Yixian found the 100 Ghost Elder. In the distance, there were 4 people jointly carrying a palanquin, and an old man with a black beard sat on the palanquin. Obviously, he was the 100 Ghost Elder. But when Yixian saw the 2 figures that stood on the left and right of the 100 Ghost Elder clearly, his entire body shook. These 2 figures were translucent, and they were shockingly wraiths that caused others to tremble with fear upon hearing their name. But this wasn't anything. The thing that truly surprised Yixian was that he'd seen the wraiths standing on the left of the 100 Ghost Elder. It was that little wraith from the ghost tomb that gave Yixian the bloodline seed of the Heaven Hatred Saber technique. Why is it her? Why is she here? Yixian raised his eyebrows. Suddenly, he saw something beside the little wraith's feet. Leg cuffs. The little wraiths were caught. Her expression was very ugly. It was obvious that she didn't want to stay beside the 100 Ghost Elder. Yixian's expression sank. He suddenly remembered that he still owed the little wraiths a favor. It was the favor of the bloodline seed of the Heaven Hatred Saber technique. He paused and narrowed his eyes as he pondered in his heart. At this moment, the 100 Ghost Elder looked at the City Lord of Anon City and said, "City Lord of Anon City, don't worry. I'm not here to cause trouble for you. I'm here to cooperate with you." Cooperate? Cooperate with what? The City Lord of Anon City was surprised. He was at the peak of the Heaven Vein stage and was currently breaking through to the Spirit stage. The 100 Ghost Elder was also at the peak of the Heaven Vein stage. If they were to fight, he wasn't afraid of the 100 Ghost Elder. However, if they were to fight, it wouldn't end so easily. After all, this was his city.